Greetings, people. Greetings. Hello, it's the odd one. It's Saturday night. It's a weird ass time that I'm going on, but you know what? I don't care. I'm just doing it. That's right. I'm doing it for the hell of it because I can. Yep. What's up, everybody? Anybody know what's going on Saturday night? Is there anything fun going on Saturday night? Is there anything at all? I don't know. What is up? We've got this and that. We've got everything else, and we just don't know what's going on. But we're going to have fun. With what? I don't know yet. Hello, Mercer. Hello, Mercer. No, no Orville. No Orville. We're doing real talk. Why not? Something real. Greetings from Mike Richards. Greetings from Columbus, Ohio. That's right. You've all beat Thomas Potts. Hello, not Ryan Johnson. It's a crappy day and it's a good day and it's a crappy day and it's a good day. So it's kind of back and forth here, folks. Hello, Bird of Prey. Hello, Thomas Potts. Yeah, it's just one of them damn days. No, we're not going to enter the glory hole. Don't worry about that. We're just going to stream for a little bit, chill, relax, see what happens. I don't know what I want to do. I just figured I should get up on the camera and hide behind my icon and say the hell with it. My truck pissed me off a little bit. Hello, V-Star. Trucks pissed me off a little bit, but you know, that happens. Yep. I'm sorry to hear that, Mercer. But yes, that's what the real talk is for. JP comes in and goes meow. There's no Moira though, JP, so you can't meow. Moira's not here. Well, I guess you can meow if you want. Didn't really get a chance to stream yesterday because so many people were on and so many people were doing stuff and just random meow. Okay, meow, meow. I really don't know what to talk about tonight though. So much shit that pisses me off, like all the riots and crap. Yeah, that pisses me off. But I don't know if anybody's got any real talk they want to throw at me. Yosef's complaining that it's 2:24 in the morning and the effing rooster woke him up. So he's going to try to fall back to sleep with me talking. Huh. Oh, the riots never stop, JPs. They just never stop. Links in the chat, though. Somebody wants to pop up. Say the hell with it. We'll find something to talk about. JPs, they've been rioting out in Portland for like 58 days straight now. That shit's not done. It won't be done until sometime well after the election, depending upon who wins. If a certain person that's in office now wins, they'll keep doing it. They'll keep doing it. Because they're crybabies. They're wusses, they're crybabies. So it hit 90 degrees again today here. Effing hot. It is. Got a bird. How'd your stream go today, bird?
Hello world. Spirtle Prey 5. Kapla. Oh, nice, beautiful island.
I know. I thought I'd change the backup. Instead of having me in the pink bunny outfit in the snow, I figured I'd put a tropical island up this time.
Oh, I call the trees. They're mine.
Well, you can have the trees for the shade. You got all the palm trees. It'll drop a coconut to you every once in a while, so you can have.
I mean, they're my coconuts too.
You can have the coconuts too, even though I do like my coconut. How'd Short Circuit go?
It went really good. It was a fun movie. Many of us hadn't seen it in a long, long time. So it was almost like watching new again. That fake Indian guy was hilarious. Everything he said was awesome.
Yeah, I don't think I've watched it since I was in my early 20s.
Yeah. Well, that's what I like. I mean, it's a movie I've seen, but it feels new again.
That guy was a fake Indian?
Yeah, he wasn't really Indian. He was a white guy they put in, dressed him up like an Indian with a fake accent.
You couldn't get away with that today, could you?
Round face. No, you couldn't get away with that today. But it's a shame because he showed how good an actor he was.
Oh, yeah, Fisher Stevens. Okay.
Like, I had no clue at the time that he wasn't really Indian.
Thank you. Come again.
Yeah. And did you notice that the character's name is not Johnny Five in the movie?
Johnny Five? Isn't it exactly what he said? That's what he wanted at the end of the movie?
Johnny Five is alive.
Ah. Okay. So you didn't see
named.
so you didn't see the theatrical cut, then you saw the home video cut. Okay, gotcha.
I guess. I mean, I gotta be honest, at the end of the movie when they were showing different scenes, there were like 5 scenes that weren't in the movie. Like, when did this happen in the movie?
Right. See, when that movie first came out in the theater, the hit song by El DeBarge, I guess it was Who's Johnny? And what happened was in the theatrical cut, they cut out all references to his name being Johnny. It was just number 5, and people were kind of scratching their heads. They're like, "Well, what?" Because the song became really popular. It was like a top chart sort of song. And so when it went to home video, they added back scenes that weren't in the theatrical cut that established the name Johnny for the robot.
The only time he says it
No.
is at the very end
Right.
of the movie when they're in the truck and they're driving away, and he's like, "Oh, I need a name." He doesn't like his name.
Yeah. And that was all dubbed in after the fact.
So he was never intended to be Johnny Five.
He wasn't Johnny Five in the original theatrical cut when the movie, and then the soundtrack becomes popular. The song by El DeBarge is in heavy rotation on MTV at the time, and people started wondering why is the song called "Here's Johnny" when there's nobody in the movie called Johnny. And when it went to home video, they made an audio correction, I guess you could call it, and put that line in there.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yes, nice software, Stephanie. Nice software.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I missed the movie because I had a friend in town that I was supposed to go see.
You don't have any friends.
I do.
Okay.
Then I had a screw up with the truck. So I've been trying to fix that.
What happened to your truck?
Well, as near as me and the neighbor can figure out, and I'm still not convinced of it. I went and started it up. I heard a pop. Searched all over everything, couldn't find nothing. Started backing it up, and there was like a little vibration knocking noise.
Uh-huh.
And then we were looking at it, we couldn't find nothing. So I started to drive it around the circle, and it got really bad. And what he thinks is them little U-rings that hold the damn exhaust up. I can see one of them snapped. I think that was the pop I heard. But it vibrates so bad when I try to drive it.
Hmm.
So there's got to be more than one broke. I didn't want to drive it like that because, well, if it's not that, then I could really screw something up. So I'm going to have to jack it up, climb under it when we got more time and when it's not freaking burning up outside.
Oh, is it hot where you're at?
It was 90 degrees with a heat index of about 100.
I gotta love the heat index. Heat index and wind chill factor were developed when I was a kid to make the weather reports more dramatic.
So it's like we pissed around with it for a while and everything else, and then I got picked up and take over to go see the friend for a while, and then I got back and pissed around with the truck again for a little while. But we're not doing nothing well. I got to get parts and fix them and see if that takes care of that or something. But I got to get more money before I can do that. So it's just a cluster.
Gotcha.
And yes, Epic Beard, it's just real talk. We can talk about anything we want today. We can talk about protests or whatever. I don't care. Today's one of them days. We can even talk about Darren Wagner's hate for Yellow Submarine.
or STD's version of cavitation, or whatever you want to talk about.
We can talk about the upcoming Snyder Cut
Yeah.
for Justice League.
Mm-hmm.
We could talk about why Bird turned the camera back up so we can't see him dying anymore.
I stopped playing the game because I couldn't concentrate and play the game at the same time.
Is that why you were dying? Because couldn't concentrate?
No, I was dying because I'm just not very good at the game. I've got to find an RPG to defeat the tank or whatever, and I didn't feel like looking for it, so I was just shooting at it.
And JP's, I also considered things on the drive shaft. That's another reason why I just was not going to drive it anymore until I figure out what it is. Oh, Epic Beard says, let's talk aliens. My home that shall not be named due to being classified, which is actually called Orc because he's a relative of Mork, just with a beard. Mm-hmm. Captain Trek, hello.
Hello.
How are you today?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I heard that sigh, so.
He exists.
Yeah, barely. Yeah, I got a live stream of my own coming up in a little while, and it's going to go over like shit. So, hey, have fun on your live stream. I'm encouraging people to go over to yours because this is going to, yeah.
What are you doing tonight?
Yeah, I'm intrigued now.
Well, see, I talked with let's see here. My brain's going right now. Just assuming I have one. Speaker for the Dead, and we're going to do something on The Expanse. And yeah, I'm not confident at all.
Yeah, I couldn't contribute to that conversation because I haven't watched that much of The Expanse because I gave up all cable and everything and didn't have it. And yeah.
So.
But right now, I seen last I saw, I don't know, maybe he left. Yeah, he left already. I saw Speaker. I thought he was over on another stream earlier, but I don't know.
But I wanted to drop in and say hello. And
hello.
I know you're doing a live stream, so I thought I'd at least leave you a like.
Thank you. I'm waiting for those three. I already got the 2 downvotes so far, so that's fairly decent.
That's not a surprise.
I should get one more before it's over with, so I'm counting on that one. I get at least 3 nowadays.
Ah, wow. That's,
I'm moving up in the world.
yeah.
Oh, I was on Eris's stream earlier today for a short. Eris Chaos.
Yes.
That was kind of fun when I finally got a word in edgewise.
I haven't been able to catch any of hers, so.
I kind of just like when some people just get up there and they just don't stop talking.
Filibuster.
Yeah, they just don't. They won't stop. So she was talking about wanting your like best villains that you liked over the years.
Right.
And I couldn't get it word in edgewise, so I just decided to put the picture up and change my name to the villain I liked,
Yeah.
and then wrote in the chat, "Here's mine."
God.
She finally stopped the other one from talking long enough so I could say my villain.
Well, that was good.
And then he took back over. Hello, Mr. Lundell. Hello, Jeff Franklin. I don't know. It's real talk. Somebody bring something up that's real that we can like be happy about or bitch about. I don't care which.
Brie Larson's channel is tanking. Her last video got 50,000 views. It's her third video, so she went from millions to 50,000.
Good.
Well, was that a surprise? Oh, and Jeff Franklin asked who my villain was. The Master, of course.
I mean, 50,000, that's almost like Lori Loaded levels, you know?
Still doing better than mine. I think my last video, I had 190 something, I think, views.
Huh.
Though I can still only see 2 hours of the video.
That's weird.
Other people can see the full thing. I can only see 2 hours of it. JP's asked who Brie Larson is. Well, it's some relative of Bird's, I think, because without makeup, she looks a lot like Bird of Prey.
Yeah.
V-Star's asking who the Master is. The Master is the villain of Doctor Who.
I don't know if I'd insult Bird that much.
Yes, Mr. Miles. Again, no Stargate. The day that you get a microphone, Mr. Miles, and come up on the stream, then we will again talk about Stargate. There, that'll keep Mr. Miles busy a while.
Yep. Well, you have a good stream. I'm going to head on out.
All right, man.
All right.
If this one falls apart real shortly and you're going, I'll send everybody to you.
Oh, God. I hate you already.
I'm sorry.
Seriously, I doubt it's going to fall apart, but hey, whatever.
It might go completely off the rails. You never know about mine.
That's true. I'll talk to you later.
See you later. Thank you for popping.
Of course.
And it gave me.
I can totally hear Mr. Londell saying, Brie Larson, that really goofy looking chick that talks funny. I can totally hear him saying that.
Yep, I can hear it too. I did
He
throw
gets-
the link in just in case somebody wanted to go to Captain Trex. I did throw the link in there just in case. But yeah, I could also hear Mr. Larndell saying that.
He's got a very distinct way of putting things.
B-Star's favorite villain is the Joker, though.
My favorite villain would probably be Clubber Lang.
Clubber Lang?
Yeah, from Rocky 3. That was Mr.
Oh, yeah.
T's character.
I knew, but he was like not really that big of a villain because at the end of the match he was like, all right, let's take pictures.
No, that was Hulk Hogan you're thinking of. That was Thunder Lips.
All right, Thunderlips. I thought Clubber Lang was also in on that.
No. Mr. T, man.
Well, see, it's been too long since I watched those Rocky movies.
Uh,
I have them all. Uh-oh, here comes Mr. Lindell now. So
That was directed at Darren.
oh, he's on the stream. Oh, shit.
he just gave you the raspberry, too.
Oh, no. No, that's the sincerest form of flattery when you're imitated poorly. Man's got a batleth, full size, too. I got a letter opener batleth.
JP's wants to say that Clubber wasn't a villain. He was just a heel.
Well, what is a heel? A villain, right? So, that's a difference without a distinction.
I don't know. Kind of a villain to me would be the ones that are out there causing mayhem and violence.
The thing that I like about Clubber Lang as a villain was he demonstrates how far a person can get with just sheer rage and hatred. And once that's spent, he had nothing left, and that's one of the reasons why he didn't come back from that last fight in the movie and such. He done his best work at that point because all it was built on was a foundation of hatred. And the other thing that I found him really interesting, this was something I didn't realize until when I was in the Navy. We were talking about movies with a couple of guys, and one guy, he happened to be black. He told me, we were started talking about Clubber Lang, in these movies, and he says, what makes Clubber Lang especially evil and a bad person? And I said, what? He says, everybody thinks it's because of how he went after Adrian at the statue scene where they're unveiling Rocky's statue, and he kind of eggs him on by trying to talk to Adrian. He says, that's not it. He says it's how he treated Apollo Creed that made him a real villain, because there's something there that you're not supposed to do, not just from the sportsman's angle, but also when it comes to African American culture and stuff like that. You're not supposed to, they're supposed to have each other's back, kind of a deal, and he had none of that. And that's not something that I picked up on right away, but once he pointed that out, that makes him one of the best villains, at least of the 80s, I would say.
I just looked at that character as an asshole.
Well, yeah, that's
No, he was trying to do. That's basically the way Muhammad Ali did opponents.
Well,
But
Apollo did the same thing, though. But the thing was, Muhammad Ali wasn't a rage, machine the way this guy was.
well, he did rage once. I can't remember the fighter's name. He kept wanting to call him Cassius Clay. And in Ali just slapped him. And from that point on, it was every time he saw him, what is my damn name? And he was ready, and he beat him to death in the ring, asking him, what's my name? Every time he hit him. That was, but understanding Ali, that was part of the way he got in another fighter's head.
Right. Yeah. Oh yeah, he used to say all kinds of things to people, but 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 and the other thing about Clubber Lang was that he was, in a lot of ways, he was the kind of the villain that Rocky deserved at that point. Now, a lot of people don't realize that they were both southpaws. Rocky Balboa, as a character, was a left-handed boxer, a southpaw, and so was Clubber Lang. And and that was, and then they both came from pretty crappy places to live and things like that. So there was a lot of similarities there, and And I just think that was also, when you look at Mr. T in that movie, he was in the best shape of his life, man.
Yeah.
He was lean as hell, and and then he goes to the A-Team and he discovers Twinkies or something. I don't know what happened, but he started really getting bigger, getting heavy looking and such. But no, when he was playing Clubber Lang, he was lean.
Yeah.
Scary.
That was just like right after he had won, what was that, the bouncer competition?
Probably, yeah.
Something like that. So,
Yeah.
and then I think it was that movie that actually made him a household name.
Oh yeah. Well, he was such a, like I said, it's such a villain. I mean, and then NBC hired him for A-Team like that later that fall. That movie came out, I think, in the summertime, and that by that fall he had a TV deal with George Papard.
Tiki asks the question, which would you rather watch, Rocky V or Star Trek V?
Well, Rocky V, help me out. That's the one where he went back, he lost all his money, and they said he had brain damage, and he went back to, and basically he just trains a guy called Tommy Gunn to fight. And I would say I would rather watch Rocky V than Star Trek V. I'm sorry, I have
I'll
to
do
say
Trek 5. I like
Yeah.
Trek 5. I'm not against it.
Neither.
Well, it's Trek V is stricken from my head canon.
All right, so since there's one Rocky V, there's one Star Trek V, and there's a neither, it means I've got to break the tie. And I'm going Star Trek V just for a Uhura fan dance.
I can respect that.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
Just for that.
I don't think that was her. I think that was a body double.
I don't care if it was her
You
or
look
not.
at her in uniform, and that was a body double. Okay.
I don't care if it was a body double or not. It looked good.
I might have to change my vote simply because I believe there is some nice Klingon cleavage in Star Trek V too.
Yeah, there was some nice Klingon cleavage too, and you got to see a flying kitty cat.
That's true. Yeah.
A 3-titty kitty cat.
Of course, Wesley comes in and says, "Greetings, same old crowd, same old chat."
But TJ, let me ask you this: you're a fan of the oh man, the Master as a villain.
Yep.
Which Master?
Well,
I'm partial to Anthony Ainley's.
see, I like three of them. I like three of them. Anthony Ainley would be my first. Sims would be my second, and Delgado would be my third.
How do you put Delgado at the back of the list?
Well, that's not the bottom of the list because I could still add more afterwards, but Ainley's top, and I like the way Sims performed his too.
But see, I like Ainley, but Ainley and Delgado looked so much alike.
They did, but the only reason why I have to put Delgado down is because he didn't have that long to be able to perform as the Master before he died.
Yeah, okay, you're right.
So there just wasn't that much there for him. I would add Missy to the list, except I still don't like the fact that Missy was the Master. I would have preferred Missy to have been either the Rani or an evil version of Romana.
And Missy should have been the Ronnie.
Yeah, should have been the Ronnie, or if they really wanted to go in a different direction, they could have had her even be Susan.
Oh, well, you know what? There's still hope for Susan to end up because she's still alive. That actress, she's still alive.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't take much for there to be an episode where she helps out the doctor some way, ends up dying and regenerates, and then you could have a true female time lady that way.
Yeah, there was also that mysterious woman in David Tennant's final appearance as regular as the Doctor, where she talked to what's his face, Wilfred in the church. I don't know if you remember this woman or not, but there was all kinds of.
She talked
you know.
to Wilfred, and then she was there behind Rassilon.
Yeah, and they exchanged some looks like she was somebody significant. And they never explained who she was or who she could be. And so of course that was this is what I used to love about Doctor Who is they'd seed shows with all these different little are they Easter eggs or are they not? Could they seeded it with possibilities. And fans were like, well, that could be Susan in a regenerated form. That could be the Ronnie. That could be Romana. It could be all kinds of characters.
There was even the rumors that it was the Doctor's mother.
Yeah, that too.
But
Or
it never
been
got played out.
Sagacity.
Yeah.
I would kind of fall towards the line that it might have been Susan. Just because of the actress that they picked would remind you of her.
Yeah. I don't like the idea of Susan living there, living on that, whatever it was, that swamp planet for, with that dude, David, I guess,
That was Earth.
What's that?
That was Earth.
Oh, that was Earth? I thought it was another planet. I couldn't
Susan was left on Earth during the Dalek invasion with the guy.
After the invasion.
After they
beat
beat the Daleks.
Okay, gotcha.
That's where the first Doctor left her.
Gotcha.
Now, there's books where he did finally come back and pick her up and stuff and take her back to Gallifrey, but that was after she had children and everything else on Earth.
Right. Okay. Gotcha. So she wasn't a regenerator like he was.
Well, she did end up finally regenerating, but he didn't go back and pick her up until she was well in her 60s.
Gotcha. Okay.
Earth
Interesting.
look.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, Doctor Who lore is insane.
Yeah.
So,
Well, a lot of people consider like the comics and the big audio finishes or big finish audio books and things like that. And I'm not familiar with any of that. I just know a little bit of what's on screen.
that's all you can know is a little bit because
Yeah.
the three doctors screwed up some canon. Then the five doctors. I mean,
Yeah.
if they ever do the 13 Doctor episode, oh my God.
That was technically done in book form.
Yeah.
It wasn't 13 though. It was the 8th Doctor regenerated and went back and met all his previous incarnations.
I like the 8th Doctor. I thought he was fun. There was after that little Night of the Doctor short film he did for the 50th anniversary or whatever it was, 60th anniversary of Doctor Who. There was a huge petition campaign to bring him back like for a season, just to like give him like a proper season of television as the Doctor before going back to whoever is the most recent, and that would have been fun.
I would have preferred if the Doctor had regenerated back into McGann
Yeah.
instead of going to this abomination they have now.
Right. Yeah. But,
And Jeff Franklin doesn't like how I pronounce Daleks.
but I mean, I remember when they first unveiled the War Doctor, and I thought, okay, I can see what happened here. They wanted 9. Christopher Eccleston won't come back to Doctor Who. Then they wanted 8, and 8 was like, well, I'm busy, but I can do this little short film for you. And then they actually picked a pretty good actor, I thought, to play a hidden Doctor that we'd never seen before in what's his face?
John Hurt.
John Hurt, yeah. Who I will always remember as the guy who had the alien burst out of his chest, in Alien. But and I thought that he had instant gravitas, as that role. He just seemed to slide right into that hidden, never before known, version of the Doctor. But it would have been cooler though to see 8 or 9 actually be the one that joins 10 and 11 on that adventure.
Especially when you were introduced at the end of that episode
Mhm.
and you know he did something real dirty.
Yeah.
It would have made more sense though if it was 8,
Hmm.
because you pick up 9 at Rose,
Yeah.
he's wanting to forget it all.
Yeah, and we're not even sure how long it's been since his regeneration, and we don't because he notices his ears in the mirror and he flips them a little bit, and it's like we don't know if he's just freshly regenerated or if he just hasn't looked in a mirror in 10 years or whatever, and I thought that was a little bit of a clue. Yeah, that whole warrior regeneration elixir or whatever was interesting. It's like he didn't really, I mean. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he didn't really seem all that different from the later ones. So I suppose, but it's the earlier ones that he was different from. Because once he became chronologically, when you look at it, once he became the War Doctor, then he became a tactical thinker. That was always a part of his personality afterwards. Sometimes it was buried, sometimes he implemented it. What's his face? But
Especially the 10th Doctor.
yeah, 10 and 11. I mean, when 11, the scene where they blow up all the Cyberman ships is one of my favorite little Doctor Who moments where they give Rory the Star Wars reverb in his voice, and he's like, would you like me to repeat the question? And all the ships are blowing up around them.
I can agree with 2 out of the 3 for JP's top 3 Doctors. I can agree with Baker's number 1 and Capaldi.
Yeah.
But
I like-
I have to.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
have
see
to-
the fascination with Capaldi. Okay.
I wanted to like Capaldi, but I didn't like his showrunner.
Well, see, that's the problem. Capaldi did the best he could with what he was handed.
Oh, okay.
He did the absolute best he could with the
I agree.
crap he was handed.
Yeah.
And he was a lifelong Doctor Who fan.
Yeah.
Because he even showed where a letter he had wrote as an 8-year-old made it to a Doctor Who magazine.
Mm-hmm. The Seventh Doctor was a gamester. Yeah, it is true. But as far as like a tactical in terms of like a strategy in an actual war and not a game, I think that the other ones had a little bit more of an edge to them than 6 or 7 rather. But I do think that 7's weird because he gradually became something, and I wanted to see what what his final form would be, because he started out being kind of a clownish guy, but then got sinister, but yeah, I mean, yeah. So I guess there was a little bit of that always in there, but yeah. The whole thing with the Sisterhood of Cairn, giving the Doctor an elixir that's supposed to guide his regeneration, so that he can choose to become something a little more, Then again, he asked for Warrior and they gave him a potion, and maybe that was a placebo or something. Who knows?
Well, it's actually, they worked it into the lore that it was the Sisterhood of Karn that were supposed to be the ones that guided Gallifreyan science to regeneration.
Okay.
That was the original lore until this crap that they did this last season.
Yeah, I've heard that they've totally made all the numbers meaningless, and and the thing was that people like, I hate to say this, people like me, only with bigger mouths and bigger audiences, were predicting this stuff, 4 or 5 years ago, that they're gonna do it. It's just a matter of time, and I remember when Chibnall was selected as the showrunner to replace Moffat, and I'm like, there's nothing great about Chibnall, guys. There isn't a single good episode under his belt. All of his episodes are hack filler jobs. They're the ones that you sit through because you want to see the preview for the next one, which is more important than this one, And so when it was announced that Chibnall was there, I'm like, everybody's rejoicing. I'm like, why? Just why? Look at what he's done. Yeah, I did like that moment where he's will it hurt? Yeah, and and then they used some like a photograph of John Hurt when he was younger, I think he was playing in Midsummer Night's Dream or something, and they put that as the reflection in the brass. when he looks at his reflection or whatever in the whatever it was. I thought that was pretty clever, and it makes you want to see like what he was like, for a while, like when he was younger and such. But
Poor Bird sitting up here has no clue what the hell we're talking about.
oh, is Bird not a Doctor Who fan?
Bird has never watched an episode all the way through. He's only watched part of one.
I
I
got
gave-
nothing to contribute.
I
Okay,
gave him the link to the perfect YouTube channel. That's all this guy does is Doctor Who. He's got a documentary for each of the original Golden Age Doctors. Let's call it that. You watch those documentaries, and you'll be up to speed.
The perfect starting point for anybody, I think, would be the first series from 2005 with Eccleston, just because the effects are not atrocious. They're budget, but they're better than what they had in the earlier run, and it's a good starting off point for anybody who's unfamiliar, because they get you up to speed pretty quickly, and it's not clunky. And that first season was like a perfect encapsulation of the Doctor, because he spoilers, he dies and then regenerates at the end, so you get to see
You ruined it for me.
yeah, sorry, but but the other thing is, of course, you get this idea, you get this notion that he's not supposed to be what he is in that series. I thought that was kind of interesting. He became a mythic character, the last of the Time Lords, whereas in the original run of the series, he ran into Time Lords all the time. And
But see, people need to go back and watch An Unearthly Child and some of the classics to understand why some of us are so passionate about how they have fucked the series over.
Or what you could do is watch what was it? It was a BBC production about how they made Doctor Who. It was a movie Adventures in Time and Space. Yeah, if you could see that and see what kind of a cultural impact it was, and what effort went into creating it, and how it succeeded against the odds and things like that. It was just they had them film it in the worst soundstage BBC had. Smallest, worst.
Its debut night gets crushed because Kennedy is assassinated.
Yeah. They decide to re-air it, and then it's originally supposed to be more of an educational program. When he goes into the future, it's a science show. When he goes into the past, it's a history show. And the guy who wanted the show developed didn't want any robots or bug-eyed monsters, but they had to introduce the Daleks as a kind of to save the show. And what are the Daleks if not a combination of a robot and a bug-eyed monster? So it was.
Hi, Tetsu. Greetings.
I love
Wesley says just watch all the Baker run.
You could do that too, but I mean, the modern audience is like, for example, I there's people that have legitimately wanted to get into Star Trek, but they're like, well, but I can't stand the old show, and I'm like, well, watch the remastered version, because at least you get more up to date special effects shots for the exterior of the ship. And I lent them a disc or two, and they thought it was great.
See, to me, if you're just watching a show like Star Trek just for the eye candy special effects, I mean, you're missing out, because all of that is backdrop. Okay,
Right.
There's a story there. That's what's supposed to draw you in. Is what's actually happening.
Let me explain something. Some people can't get past that to give it a try. They're like if the effects can't enable them to suspend disbelief even for a moment, they want to watch something else. I had a friend when I was growing up in the 80s. His name's Sean, and he was a Star Wars fan, and I was a Star Trek fan. And it got to be the late 80s, and Star Trek is going strong with Next Generation. They had a whole bunch of movies throughout the 80s. And I'm like, why don't you watch a Star Trek movie? I mean, Star Wars is done. They haven't. The last Star Wars movie came out in '82. It's 80. It's 1990 now. I mean, you've got and Star Trek. And he's like, every time I was a kid, I'd see it on TV and I'd watch it for 2 minutes, and it was just people standing around talking, and it was boring, and the effects were really bad. And I'm like, well, okay, we'll go see Star Trek 6. That's coming out in a couple of months. So Star Trek 6 was his first Star Trek movie, and he was blown away by it. He was blown away by it because, by this point, everybody knows Captain Kirk is this, incredible figure in science fiction, and this was his last mission and his last hurrah. And so anything could have happened at that point. He could have died. He could have done anything. And he was just very impressed with that movie. And all of a sudden, he had to watch all the movies. So he watched all the movies. I lent him all, and then he started dipping his toes into the original series and TNG. TNG, of course, was still happening at in real time at that time. So that's how he got into it. But the thing was, you had to show him something that had modern production value. And there's a lot of kids today, I've noticed. They're tired of the TV that is made for them in this generation. This generation of TV sucks. They just don't want to watch it. And what they've discovered is, like, My TV and Family Land and Nick at Night, they're watching old shows that were legitimately funny. And they had to be funny and not dirty, because of the television practices and standards of the time. So they're watching, even just family entertainment that you can't get now. Yeah.
I worked with a guy that he was maybe late 20s, and I guess it was around the first time probably MeTV started running Green Acres.
Right.
And he would sit and we would discuss some of the episodes, and like he would say stuff like, and Mr. Haney is just a straight up hustling gangster. Which is true.
Right.
He would always have something to sell you.
Oh yeah.
And stuff like this is the kind of stuff I grew up on, dude. Yeah, that was back in the day. That was funny, and I'm surprised that you like it.
Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of that humor is dated, but a lot of that humor you can't get today, and that's where it comes into play. I remember. Okay, let's say you look at some kids watching TV in a living room, and if you see any show that looks like it came out in the '60s, they're not watching anything that's bad for them.
Yeah,
I mean, you can sit your kid down in front of a Gilligan's Island marathon, and they'll have probably a good time depending on how old they are. And they're not going to see anything or hear anything that they're not supposed to hear or see. It's perfectly safe entertainment. Even shows like I Dream of Jeannie and I'd still stay away from Bewitched, but I Dream of Jeannie. Fine. Which some people are sensitive to witchcraft and things like that, evangelical Christians and stuff like that. I can totally see avoiding that, but
Well, then they can watch F Troop.
They can watch F Troop, exactly. They can watch F Troop. They can watch Hogan's Heroes. They can watch all these old shows that a lot of people that lasted a good long time and people thought were hokey, after a while. But now we've kind of grown out of that cynicism, and now they're actually historical documents.
Like what Uncle Remus just said, I Love Lucy and the Honeymooners.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Situational comedy that's actually situational and funny.
And the thing about I Love Lucy, it's on right now somewhere on this planet. Somebody's watching an episode of I Love Lucy.
Yep. And the Arnaz family is getting a check. They're getting a check of the revenue from the advertising. But no, Star Trek is and this was true of Star Trek up until very recently, was relatively safe entertainment for a family to watch, or even just put kids down in front of it and watch. Addams Family and Munsters as well, Uncle Remus says, especially the Munsters. I was always really impressed with the Munsters because they were able to use Universal Studios, Universal, the classic Universal look on a television budget. They were able to pull it off, And
but have you ever seen the original pilot for the Munsters?
Yes, when you had Phoebe instead of Lily, and yeah, you had different actors and stuff, and they were all blue.
And Phoebe was more like Elvira than she
Right.
was Lily.
Yeah, she wore black and not white, and she didn't have any. She didn't have any white in her hair. She was like she actually looked a little bit more like Morticia, except she had a blue face. And you tell me there wasn't espionage between networks back then for television. There was all kinds of uncanny similarities. One network is going to put out the Munsters, another one gets one on the Addams Family cartoons from the New Yorker. You got somebody one person has a show about a genie, another one has one about a witch. You had
They saw
Green
what
Egg.
worked.
Yeah.
Said, see a formula over here that works. They're gonna play with it over there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Or sometimes it'd be the opposite. The Beverly Hillbillies, about hillbillies living in the rich communities. So then let's do the opposite. Let's move some rich people out into the country with green acres. About the only one they didn't copy was Gilligan's Island.
That's because CBS didn't understand. They didn't understand that show for some reason.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's funny because you hear stories about how Beverly Hillbillies was rejected by all the networks, and then several times until they finally relented, and because they didn't get the concept, they said, "What who's going to want to watch that?" Well, it became one of the most beloved TV shows ever. But I tell you, the other one that I really think is a great one to watch for anybody is The Twilight Zone. It'll mess you up, it'll freak you out, but it won't do it in a way that's they do it today.
That to me, that's another classic show that it's about what's happening. It's about the right. It's about the story. Everything else is backdrop.
Right.
Okay. My favorite episode, probably of all, is the Obsolete Man.
Oh, the Obsolete Man. Yeah, with Burgess Meredith.
Yeah. Okay. This old guy, he got this loyal, blind, to the state guy to actually call on God.
Yeah.
Just before he was about to die. Okay, that was beautiful.
On national television, no less. Yeah. And
here's one I was going to bring up, All in the Family.
that was a little bit later.
Yeah,
you might hear a bad word on All in the Family.
Yeah, All in the Family, they were pushing the envelope.
Yeah. But getting back to Twilight Zone for a second, that episode you mentioned, The Obsolete Man, the last few seconds of that episode are actually really disturbing when the guy who did call upon the name of the Lord goes back to work and they gang up on him. That's some weird stuff.
Well, that's what Burgess Meredith's character wanted to happen.
Right. Yeah.
How he got back at the state.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And there are. I mean, even the one you did the review on, the
Howling Man.
The Howling Man. That was.
Yeah. Water, what they used to call water cooler shows, where people would discuss it the next day, at their work, during on their breaks and stuff. Yeah, Night Gallery came out about 10 years later in the late 60s, early 70s, and it was more horror themed. They did a lot. I think it was an hour long. The show was an hour long, and sometimes they had 2 half-hour segments. Sometimes they had 1 full-hour show. The only one that I remember from that one was, oh goodness, what is his name? I'm gonna have to look up his name now. But Roddy McDowall was in this episode where he played a rich kid who was going to inherit his uncle's wealth, and it's a black fella that you'd know if you saw him. He's been in all kinds of stuff. Played the guy's butler, and Roddy McDowall essentially murders his uncle by wheeling his wheelchair over to the window on a cold day, and his uncle freezes to death, basically.
Oh yeah, he locked the wheels, and his uncle was trying to back out. Into the okay.
Yeah, and he died of exposure essentially in his own bedroom, and his butler, has to serve him now. And there's this painting on the wall, and every time you looked at it, it would change, and it showed like his uncle crawling out of the family crypt and coming to the house and stuff. And and I won't spoil it, but that was some good stuff, you know.
You could see the grave, and then the grave would be open, and then the casket would be up out of the grave. Open, and then you saw him walking toward. I remember that. So.
Yeah, and then he hears the knock, the doorbell.
Hello, Philip. Hope your night's well.
Yeah,
but that's that one. And let me see. There was there was one with Richard Thomas.
Okay, I have to look him up.
He was a sin eater. Well, his father was a sin eater.
Oh, him, yeah, okay, yeah, John Boy from Walton's.
Yeah, and his mother had tricked him into eating a meal for his father because his father had died.
Oh, okay.
And with a sin eater, rich people would hire them to eat a meal at their funeral. To take all the sins from them so they could go to heaven.
Interesting.
It was probably one of the strangest episodes.
Yeah. Then there was, you know, the short one where Adam West played Dr. Jekyll. And you know, Igor makes him a martini. And he turns into Mr. Hyde because he forgot to put the vermouth in it or something. It was just sometimes they, you know, the Batman was already over at this point, and you know, so Adam West was appearing in pornos and anywhere you could find a place. You know, Adam West was one of those actors who found his way into pornos, but he didn't actually perform it on the porno. He'd be the bumbling idiot who walked in on two people doing it, and he'd walk out. They did that to just add star power to the pornos back then. They weren't like XXX features. They were like, softcore, but that was his thing. And but he was also in that episode of Night Gallery where he played Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. But there's even one episode where Mark Hamill has a small part where he delivers a letter to somebody. It's like, why? It's Luke Skywalker.
That one, I don't know. It was, But then, you ever watched Outer Limits? I'm talking the original black and white.
Yeah, there's 2 episodes of Outer Limits that I actually think are really good. One of them, they're both written by Harlan Ellison. So.
Oh, okay.
Demon with a Glass Hand and Soldier. Both of them were inspirations for Terminator.
He wrote Soldier? I didn't know that.
Yeah, in fact, the short story was originally called Soldier of Tomorrow, but then after it became an episode of Outer Limits, they when they reprinted it, they just reprinted it as Soldier. But so a lot of thought went into that one, and then when years later James Cameron makes Terminator, Harlan Ellison managed to sue him because he blurted out to somebody in overconfidence that he ripped off 2 Harlan Ellison short stories, and Starlog recorded it, and the magazine, and so he's telling him, look, we got the smoking gun here. You want to come talk to us? It's kind of a funny thing.
Yeah, that's something. This guy, Mr. Sci-Fi, he knew a lot of those that generation of writers, and to him, according to him, Harlan could be an asshole.
Oh, I've talked to Harlan before he died. I saw both sides of the man.
Oh yeah.
And I tell you, any story of him ranting and raving and acting crazy, I believe it. The one that I remember, To Serve Man was Twilight Zone, not an Outer Limits, Richie. But the one I remember was another writer ripped off Soldier. His name was Bill Mantlo, and he worked for Marvel Comics at the time. He was writer of the Incredible Hulk series. And he'd written this story basically where the Hulk encounters the character from Soldier, Quarlo Klabregni. And it went on sale and nationwide. And then the next morning, when Jim Shooter, the editor-in-chief of Marvel, came to his office, somebody stops him in the hallway and goes, "Are you nuts? You just ripped off Harlan Ellison in that Hulk issue that came out yesterday." And he's like, "Really?" And then he goes to his office and his secretary says, "Harlan Ellison's on the phone." and the way he tells the story is he sits down and Harlan Ellison just rants and raves for about a half an hour on the phone, and finally after he cooled down, he says, "Harlan, I know I just found out about it. What can we do for you?" And when he found out that he wasn't getting, when Harlan found out he wasn't going to get a fight out of Marvel at all, that they were acquiescing, he's like, "Well, okay, here, and when you acquiesced to Harlan Ellison, his demands were extremely reasonable because he could have sued Marvel out of production at that point. He had that kind of power." He said, "I want to get paid whatever Bill Mantlo got paid for that story." He says, "I want a retraction in the next issue of The Incredible Hulk as far as who the writer was. And I want a lifetime subscription to everything Marvel publishes for the rest of my life." And Jim Shooter's like, "Done."
But okay, now did he raise the stink over the Kurt Russell movie? Of the same name?
No, he didn't. Just had the same name. There was really no similarity at all between the two.
Well, actually, there was.
Well, there was some very, but they weren't. It wasn't close enough. There was no time travel. There was no.
Oh,
so he's more interested. He's more interested in the actual story that he wrote rather than the concept.
Okay.
And what's funny about it is that Harlan's even said this before he died. Obviously, he said that if a writer or if James Cameron had come to me and said, "We really like these two stories. We have our own little take on it. Is it okay if we do this?" He said that he would have gave them their blessing and everything, but because he would be flattered that they asked him. But if they just go and take it, then he comes after him. So
you can't really blame him for that, though.
You have to be aggressive. But Harlan also had some interesting quirks. He had when he graduated high school, he went to a college and essentially got kicked out of college his first year. And one of the things that a creative writing professor told him that he would never, that basically he would never get work because of his attitude in class, and his writing was subpar. And after that, every time he got a piece of work published, he would send that to that professor. For like 40 years, he did this. It was obsessive behavior, But that was the kind of guy he was. He did stories of him sending, mailing dead animals to publishers who didn't pay him, things like that. It was just, yeah, I know.
That is so mafia. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. He also had a special pen name that telegraphed his fans to not watch something. There was this TV show in the 70s that was going to be made in Canada called The Star Lost. And some of you might have heard of this. Back in the 70s, it was a TV show called The Star Lost, and it was developed by Harlan Ellison. And what it was about was these people. It kind of reminds me of that episode of The Orville where they had the ship that thought that they were on a planet, and they didn't know that, and they had a dome, sky, and all that kind of stuff. Well, it was like that, except there were like dozens of domes on this huge ship, and each dome was its own world inside. And one person figures this out and leaves the dome. And so the show is all about them exploring domes on this ship. And it was called The Star Lost. And the idea was that they were going to use a revolutionary new form of photography that the name of it escapes me right now. Let me see if I can look it up. But anyway, what it amounted to was they would build miniature sets, and then they had a way of putting actors on these miniature sets so that you could have these huge extravagant sets that didn't cost much to make. And it was it was a failure. Magicam was what it was called. MAGICAM, Magicam, and it didn't work. It was terrible. Harlan was told that the show would be filmed on actual film, and it wasn't. They switched to videotape, which made the thing look cheap.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. And because of all the broken promises, he exercised a right in his contract that said that he had the option to use his
he went Alan Smithy on him.
Yeah. Well, the name is Cordwainer Bird, which means he's flipping them the bird is what the word is what the name means. So yeah, Cordwainer Bird. Yeah, that bird. and so Harlan Ellison fans all of a sudden they saw a series created by Cordwainer Bird and they didn't tune in. The show was a dismal failure. They couldn't cash in on Harlan's fan base, and that killed the show. But yeah, Magicam was this technique. And I guess it was later refined and used in other shows. Like they used it in it switched to like a rear projection thing, kind of like in UHF, Weird Al Yankovic's UHF movie. The scene where he's doing all the Indiana Jones crap in the beginning of the movie, that was all done using that technique. But they couldn't perfect it in time for the show. It was just, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Sorry for pontificating there. I was just...
Yeah, and
that's nice.
Episode City on the Edge of Forever.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
wrote that, and that was supposed to have been a drug dealer on the Enterprise.
Yeah, that's something that I kind of empathize a little bit more with Harlan on that story, because he was hired before they actually had like a series Bible. And he was given a very loose idea of what Star Trek was about. He says it's a naval ship in space is basically what he was talking about. Well, he had been in the military, so he knows the kind of crap that can happen in the military. And yeah, there was a guy who was selling, stealing, pilfering Cordrazine and giving it to people to get high on the Enterprise. And he, so that there's a problem for Roddenberry and the rest of the showrunners.
Yeah.
Then later on, when they land on the planet, they're going to kill the guy by firing squad. Well, Kirk's not going to kill a member of the crew by firing squad. That's not Star Trek either. But Harlan didn't know that, and then he wrote what he wrote was so fantastic that there's no way on a television budget they could have filmed it the way it was written. The Guardians of Forever were like 20 feet tall. They were, and so they had to change everything to this, this talking portal. That was what they were able to do. And then, but the worst part of it for Harlan was that Roddenberry took the script and added all kinds of utopian crap that he wanted in there, and that was one thing that that Harlan just hated was utopian bullshit. Okay, Momo, what's up now? What are you doing here, Momo? Oh, never mind. Okay.
But the problem was, as I understand it, Roddenberry rewrote the script.
Yeah, he did.
I would have handed it back to Harlan. We can't use this dude.
Well, here's the problem. They had hired him, and they had all the time in the world. But there's a reason why the second to the last episode of the season is City on the Edge of Forever. They pushed it. They kept having rewrites, and the show was supposed to air much sooner in the season because he was one of the. Again, Robert Bloch wrote episodes. I mean, you had some named writers in there, and it got to the point where they just basically took the script and altered it the way they wanted. But he wrote like 4 different versions of that script, and they kept rejecting and whittling it down until you finally see what you see. And it's because of that experience that he came up with the Cordwainer Bird thing and made sure that was in all of his contracts because he didn't like the fact that it said his name on that script because he didn't feel it was his anymore.
Yeah. Well. Okay, Bird.
I don't think Ellison was ill suited for Star Trek. I just think that had he known what Star Trek was, he could have accounted for that in the writing. And you can't tell me he wouldn't have been a good Deep Space Nine writer. He could have wrote some interesting stuff, and with the Q in there and all that shit. I mean, you skip over to next. He hated Star Trek, but he only hated it really because of the experience he had working on Star Trek.
Well, the Dominion War, yeah, he could have wrote some.
Yeah,
good stuff.
and he worked on Babylon 5. So
Yeah.
Or
so
we
I
can
mean,
bring our expert in, Bird of Prey 5, the expert to DS9.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
think we're all pretty well versed with DS9.
Let me
Especially
run
Aaron.
Gelogia right quick, people.
but yeah, well, Harlan was doing all kinds of other things. I mean, his, it's funny how many movies haven't been made on his stuff. I mean, I think A Boy and His Dog or A Dog and His Boy. I can't remember what it was called. The movie with Don Johnson. That's like the highest profile film based on one of his stories I think that's ever been made.
And that was a decent film, but it wasn't that good.
Yeah, it was a low budget, thing, and the cannibalism and the rape and stuff in it didn't it was.
I don't know. If I'm going to watch one like that, I'm going to watch Damnation Alley.
Okay.
I'll tell you who lost some DS9 credibility with me yesterday was Nerdrotic.
What do you do now?
He was doing a super chat square up, and somebody brought up the Celestial Temple and Cisco in the Celestial Temple. And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. He didn't get the reference.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there's only so much sci-fi. I mean, I don't know if it'd be possible if somebody would be up on every single major sci-fi franchise.
He would blow away
yeah.
me on Doctor Who and everything comic book related.
Right.
But that one thing at DS9, I was like, oh.
Yeah.
And I know what he claims to be. He doesn't claim to be a Trek expert. So.
I'll pit my brain on Doctor Who against his.
Yeah. See, I wouldn't. For example, I don't care much for Stargate or a lot of these other sci-fi shows that I just didn't watch. I had my Star Trek, and that was about it. Yeah, Geek Erotic didn't get a reference to Cisco and the Celestial Temple.
I think now that I remember, I think he'd said he only ended up watching DS9 once. So could have been a long time since he's seen it.
Well, that is one show that I would just love for them to finally come out on HD. I mean, I bought the documentary just to see the footage that's in HD. I wanted to see the interviews and stuff too, obviously, but like that glory shot of the station right in the beginning when it's still in orbit around Bajor, that's just some awesome stuff.
I don't know. DS9 didn't get good till Esri showed up.
That was at the very end, the last season. What are you talking about?
Just trolling Bird.
Oh, okay, gotcha. All right. I tell people, look, if you want to watch Deep Space Nine, it's not going to make as much sense to you until after you've seen most of TNG. I said, but if you really want to, I give them like maybe 5 episodes from the first season because some of those episodes were really the world building was a slow process in Deep Space Nine. The first 2 seasons were such a slow burn, and then when the Dominion shows up at the end of season 2, that's when things really start picking up, and then Worf comes on board, and it's just a snowball effect, and the thing was like a freight train going towards the end.
Well, actually, all you'd have to watch from from TNG to get into DS9, 2 or 3 Borg episodes, all of the episodes involving Bajorans and the Cardassians.
Yeah, you could crop it then, but then of course when Worf comes on board, you're going to want to watch the Klingon Civil War. You're going to have to look at stuff like that. I mean, in order to get the full effect, and I've made lists for people that streaming lists for people where I cut out episodes that don't matter, like who watches the Watchers and terrible, episodes that are centered around Troy and Crusher and stuff like that. It's just and just get to the main good ones. The real military type stories.
You really don't need to watch most of the episodes involving Wesley.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the best Wesley episode that ever was the one where he got in trouble at the academy. And
Well, I
That-
think it's a toss-up between that one and the one where it's just him and Picard stranded on the.
Well, there was a third guy too.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's mostly
Yeah. The desert planet. Yeah. They,
desert.
were-
It's about the only two episodes that
Yeah.
Wesley met.
they kind of go hand in hand because that's when Picard told him about Boothby, and then Boothby turned out to be Popeye's
Asshole.
dad.
I don't
Popeyes.
like that desert planet at all. That episode. It's the one I actively skipped.
Yeah.
It's like it would have made more sense if in Picard they'd made him into the new Boothby.
Yeah, he should have been teaching at the academy.
Well, I think in Star Trek Online, don't they have a holographic Boothby? Like they have like a emergency groundskeeping program or something that looks like Boothby, so they can still have Boothby on the being the groundskeeper on in Starfleet Academy. I hate
don't know.
Starfleet. I hate Starfleet Academy as a concept. I just always couldn't stand it. You can always tell when civilians are writing Star Trek because they don't know what a military academy is like. They make the officers reminisce about their days at the academy like they went to civilian college or something in the 60s. It's not like that at all. It's like, it's not pleasant. Some people will say they enjoyed it, but they're lying.
I would have rather seen them.
Yeah, an academy is something that you want to get through as soon as possible.
Yeah.
I would have rather have seen them to do a series of the Mirror Universe in the style that they did in Enterprise.
Yeah. The plan was that every season after that, they were going to have a Mirror Universe episode that brought you up to speed with what was going on in the Mirror Universe with Empress Hoshi, and because there were several characters that actually didn't die. A lot of people think, for example, Reed died, but at the end of it, but it was inconclusive. At the end of that episode, or towards the end of that episode, Phlox said, well, at this point, he could go either way, and they never got back to him. We don't know that Archer's dead either. He got rendered unconscious or poisoned, but we don't know if he died. And so the idea was that, when we cut back to that Mirror Universe, Empress Hoshi would be handing out assignments to Archer because she knows how capable an officer he is. And, we don't know if he'd be in command of the Defiant, but I think that she'd probably be keeping that as her personal ship. But then, he'd have like another another NX class ship or something that he would get.
So it wasn't clear whether or not she killed Archer.
It wasn't, they were all intended to come back. That anybody that didn't expressly die, like for example, Saval dies, Forrest dies. But at the end, Archer just got drugged, and we don't know what his status was. And the idea was that that when they were going to revisit that Mirror Universe several times before that series ended, if it had a 7-year run, and we would have seen that. It would have been fun.
But see, that led me to believe, because he passed out and she started bragging about being Empress Hoshi. Okay,
Yeah.
she killed him. That means she's in charge of the ship. That means she's going to take over.
Well, she actually, it was revealed basically that Archer just thought he was in charge, and she was actually the one that was behind the thing. So the whole crew was in on it except for him. And that scene where she drugs him, and then she starts making out with Mako Mayweather in front of him. It's kind of it's kind of like, what the hell. But anyway, so that was the whole plan. And Phlox didn't die either at the end of that episode. He was Trip knocked him, Mirror Trip knocked him out, but that was it. He didn't die.
Yeah, and then they wouldn't have pulled the BS of having Trip die off at the end of the series, even though the books say he didn't actually die. He was just working for.
Yeah, that was all based on a historical record that got tampered with or something. So it was weird too, because they said, "Oh, he's Section 31." I'm like, Reed is Section 31, not Trip. But so it was always kind of a weak thing that they did that in the novels. But but no, there were so many great things planned for season 5, 6, and 7 of Enterprise that we'll never see. Obviously the major refit where they get the engineering section, where all of a sudden the ship doesn't have any power problems anymore because it's got a secondary, it's got a whole new power plant. in addition to the one it already had. You know,
Yeah.
Doug Drexler's videos on Trek Yards where he talks about what was intended for that new version of the NX-01 were just awesome. You know, it was a significant upgrade for that ship, and they were going to reveal that T'Pol was half Romulan. You know, that her father was actually a Romulan spy living on Vulcan, and she wouldn't find out, but the audience would find out. One of those kind of deals. There was, you know, all sorts of stuff planned, and
So see, at that point, they are just stepping all over canon.
well,
No, at that point, Enterprise, they don't know what a Romulan looks like.
right, and they
It's
still didn't.
another 100 years before they know a Romulan.
Well,
looks
yeah,
like
but
a Vulcan.
the Romulans know what the Romulans look like. The Romulans know what the Vulcans look like, but the Vulcans and the humans don't know, and the Andorians don't know what the Romulans look like. And as long as they kept it that way, that was fine. I thought the whole thing with the Romulan drone ship, where Trip and Reed are on that ship, and they're trying to make it to the bridge, and you think that they're going to make it to the bridge where there's Romulans, and the control room's empty, and you find out that the ship's being remotely controlled from Romulans. I thought that was a great, you know, tease. You know, it's like, are they going to break canon? Are they going to break canon? And all of a sudden at the end, they didn't break canon. You know, it's like-
No, actually, they broke it before that. Because remember when Archer and T'Pol, Archer had the Katra in him, and they were out there in the.
well,
Then,
there's reference to those
Yeah.
who followed the Raptor's wing or something.
Yeah,
But that
no.
was cryptic.
No, actually, at the end of that, I guess it was a 2 or 3 parter. There was a Romulan, there was a Vulcan talking to a Romulan, and
Right,
they were
but-
talking about the unification.
Yeah, but that was a secret. Nobody knew that Romulan, that Vulcan leader was a Romulan spy. You know,
Uh-huh.
and so nobody knew but the people that were directly involved. It was still a secret. It was one of those things where they shared it with the audience, but they didn't
Yeah.
share it with the rest of the world of Star Trek.
So
And that-
you don't see that as breaking canon?
No, because there's, you know, because that was a secret. The audience was let in on it. You know what I mean? That was
And I still think there was Vulcans that knew what Romulans looked like, because that
well, right.
That
The
can-
one.
big split.
The one that's talking to a Romulan obviously knows what Romulans look like, but I mean, he was supposed to be. They were going to come and extract him later, as I recall, because he's, you know, because they were that was all part of a huge plot to undermine Vulcan society and prep them for reunification with the Romulans, and it got all, you know, because of the humans, it got all sidetracked, and they had to, you know, go back and having it be like a dormant project or something, but.
Hey, Katia, thank you for stopping by. Thank you.
Yeah. Keith, yeah, but yeah, Annie Trekker doesn't like anything that hurts his head canon when it comes to TOS. So
Spock might have been surprised what a Romulan looked like, but we know in the backgrounds anybody running the government on Vulcan would have known.
oh yeah, but there's a lot of things our government knows that you and I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of things that our government knows that a lieutenant commander out in the Navy wouldn't know. You know, so you know, it's fine. It's just like Annie Trekker goes on and on about it breaking canon when it doesn't actually break canon because it breaks his head canon. You know, he's been watching TOS since he was a baby, so he's obviously built up some ideas based off of what he's seen.
Yeah.
And then when you come along and you say, well, this is what happened and it works, he just you know, it bothers him. Let's just say that it bothers him. I shouldn't be talking about him since he's not here, but it's fine.
We all
I'm
talk
not-
about it anyway.
He
He'll be
admits
streaming a little later, so you can just go over and tell him that you said it all.
somebody will probably tattle on me. Yeah, anyway, oh well. It's like he's got a problem with the Defiant too, and it's like it looks like a Federation starship to me. It's made out of the same. It's made out of the same materials.
Yeah.
It's got Yeah.
If you look at that ship, it actually makes more sense as a war vessel.
right, but he wants to have pylons and nacelles that are away from the hull and stuff like that. The whole point of it was to do things differently.
Yeah.
And when you're Starfleet and you're making ships that are ultra safe because the nacelles are on pylons sticking away from the ship, but then you see all these alien races that have their nacelles tight to the hull, and you're thinking, how are they getting away with that?
And wasn't the whole point of it anyway to make it that way so they could borrow the cloaking from somebody, so they could easily cloak it without having to worry about pylons?
I don't know about that. The Defiant wasn't designed to have a cloaking device. Just the prototype was given one by the Romulans. And that was a whole separate thing.
But I think it made the best sense on using the cloaking device.
Well, yeah, it's a small ship. It had an abundance of power. So, in fact, it was, like Cisco said, it was overpowered for a ship its size. Might as well put that energy somewhere. Give it a cloak, So,
yes, I understand. I did understand that the whole Defiant was made to fight the Borg.
Yeah.
And not, but it just made the perfect sense to be the one that gets sent into the Delta Quadrant to investigate things.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
The Defiant should have been able to fire while cloaked in the Gamma Quadrant.
Well, I kind of like that limitation about the cloaking device. I think if you start getting into a ship that fires while cloaked, it's still detectable. You just triangulate where that last shot came from and where the next shot came from, and you can pretty much predict where the next one's going to come from. But the Defiant I like in concept. I mean, yes, I know it's a little bit of an ugly thing. I mean, I like it's the battle turtle. That's what they called it in the art department. And you can see that there is a saucer in there. They obviously started with a saucer, and then they just kind of stuck some stuff onto the side and the front. And there's a lot of things about the Defiant we weren't exactly explained very well, like that whole nose cone thing and how exactly do they walk off the ship through that, and things like that. But no, I mean, the Defiant was a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
Now, if every starship after that looked like the Defiant, I would be upset. But that's not what happened, So even in the video games, they've got. I think they had this one interesting in one of the games. I don't remember what it was called, but they had a ship that looked like it was like a combination of Voyager and the Defiant, where it looked like it had a saucer like Voyager's, but it had the forward phase, pulse phasers on the saucer.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of like a big battle barge.
Oh.
Yes, Thomas, the Borg did kick the Defiant's butt, but it was meant to have multiple ships like the Defiant fighting.
Yeah. It wasn't meant to destroy a Borg cube all by itself. It was supposed to be part of a new battle fleet.
You're supposed to have 15 or 20 of those hitting you at the same time from all different angles.
Yeah, with a couple of capital ships as well. Obviously, the idea is that having all these homogenized ships that all have pretty much the same capabilities wasn't going to work against them. They had to have specialized vessels with different things.
Oh, that sounds like the modern Navy.
Kind of, yeah. It's like also, Andy Trekker doesn't like the faster maneuverable ships, and it's like, well, there are combat speedboats in the Navy.
Yeah,
they run rings around aircraft carriers and all these other ships, and that's when that's what I consider some of those smaller attack craft to be, rather than fighters. To me, they look like small attack, speedboats. But
and Andy Trekker doesn't like small fighters in
not
Star
in Star
Trek.
Well, I agree with him that in Star Trek they don't make sense, but hey, when it's balls to the wall, you're at war. You throw everything but the chickens. Everything.
Well, they do make sense to a point if you've got them like defending a planet.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
See, and besides, that's why that's one of the major points of contention I have with him when he wants to put a Constitution class up against a Star Wars big cruiser. They have those little fighters, and the question is, how many can you launch and how fast do they move?
Yeah. Oh, that's an interesting stuff. But of course, to me, it's like asking, who's faster, the Flash over in DC Comics versus Quicksilver over in the Marvel Comics or something like that. Different rules in different universes.
Oh, it's Flash, hands down.
Well, it is Flash, hands down, of course. But here's okay. We're gonna I'm going to deviate from this topic just a second here to talk to Mr. Lundell about one thing. Okay, there was a comic book that came out about 20 years ago now called Avengers JLA, and it is, in my opinion, it's the definitive comic book about the Justice League encountering the Avengers. And in it, yes, when the Avengers came to the DC Comics universe, Quicksilver was severely outclassed by the Flash because they were in his universe where the Speed Force exists. But when later on in the comic, the DC characters came to the Marvel universe, Flash was cut off from the Speed Force, and they were pretty much equal. They were pretty much equal at that point, and then it became an interesting fight. But so I mean, that's the kind of thing that when you talk about, the Connie versus the, and I know you don't like that term, but the Constitution class versus a Star Destroyer. There's so many different variables, so many different interpretations of each version of those ships, and you have different rules in each universe. That it's all he's expressing his opinion on that whole subject.
Well, I kind of say the Constitution
is dead wrong. I mean,
I just say the Constitution would outclass it all because of the shields.
Yeah. I mean, there's and it's not like the Constitution is the most powerful Star Trek ship we've ever seen either.
Hell, I think an NX-01 could take out a Death Star just because of...
Well, it kind of did in that third season of Enterprise because they had that great big Xindi super weapon, which was basically a Death Star.
Oh, yeah, right.
I mean, it was designed to destroy a planet. It was a sphere. But anyway.
But that was the thing I liked about Enterprise because instead of being like Voyager where it never took damage, you actually saw the NX over a complete season get wrecked.
Yeah. There was one of my favorite shots was they showed it orbiting a planet and the camera was looking down on the ship and you can see the planet through the holes in the ship. There was a couple of really good shots like that where they really hit home the idea that that section of the ship is off limits. And
just the fact that Archer would steal a warp course.
I think that there was a really great story they could have told after that. And the fact that they never revisited that. I mean, in fact, what I would have done? I would have made those people Cardassians.
Ooh.
Because then that would have explained what a poor first contact that is. It's like, no wonder they don't like the humans. It's like, but that could have been something they did. But what I would have done was, at least have a little line in there somewhere where, Archer tells the Aquatics, hey, there's this ship stranded at these coordinates. Can you go pick them up and take them home? Because we know the aquatic ships can.
That pissed me off too. Like when they came home and they could have easily done something.
Yeah, because I mean, at least then he could have made it up to him somehow, and something like that. But they mention it once after that, where he's out there, mountain climbing with Captain Hernandez from the Columbia, and she mentions
that he stranded him.
Yeah. They just confirmed he was eating him alive, and and it's like, well, you could have at least the Aquatics would have been fine to grab that ship and take it home. I mean,
the Vulcans can still do it.
Oh yeah, now that they're
back home.
Yeah, now that the expanse, the Delphic expanse is gone. Yes. Yeah, all the anomalies are gone. So yeah.
What cracked me up even further is the fact that he told somebody, that chick, and even she didn't do anything about it.
Yeah. So
but you got to remember now, what brought all that to the surface was dealing with a damn Vulcan. They had just, they had just got back from that. He was PTSD and all over the place, and you got to deal with a damn Vulcan answering his question.
Oh yeah,
he didn't across the table at that guy.
I think he did, didn't he? I mean, he stood up and shouted at him. I guess that's not the same thing, but
I mean, he come across swinging, and he's got to pitch him to calm him down.
Of course, you got to remember that Saval could probably take a hit or two and then give back, but it's. But another thing that I thought was really great about that fourth season was the total reversal of Saval. He went from being their number one pain in the ass, administrative guy, to being like their biggest advocate, especially after Admiral Forrest died. That was some fun stuff.
I think that's because one thing I've noticed about the original series and some of the later ones, Vulcans and humans kind of complement each other,
Yeah, yeah,
and I think Saval was beginning to see that.
yeah. Plus, I've had this personal theory all the time that Vulcans have always been assholes.
Yeah,
I mean,
they are.
Spock's half human, so he doesn't quite count, but he doesn't get along with a lot of people on the old show. He takes some getting used to. His dad on the show certainly was a prick.
A prick and a half.
Then we skip to, let's see. There were a couple of Vulcans we saw on TNG, but the one that also gets me was the one that Sisko had a rivalry with from the Academy.
Oh yeah,
Total prick.
Yeah, arrogant as he just walk up to you. You're human. You're half. You're less than half what I can do.
Yeah, racist and everything.
Yeah.
And then even later in Deep Space Nine, they had a Vulcan serial killer on Deep Space Nine that did everything he did in the name of logic. Okay, so they were portraying Vulcans as being dicks and bad guys and things way before Enterprise.
Well,
so
logic can make you a dick.
Yeah, exactly.
You just totally stick to logic.
Yep.
Remember the Galileo episode?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, everything Spock did was totally logic. He damn near got that whole landing party killed.
Yep. And one of my best Spock lines is in Star Trek VI when he's talking to Valeris and she mentions, "Is this logical? Surely we must." And he interrupts her and says, "Logic, Valeris, is the beginning of wisdom, not the end." And I thought that was really powerful stuff.
That's because he's finally figured it out.
Bird, you awake?
Still awake.
I hear kids screaming in the background. What are you doing to those poor orphans?
You don't hear any kids screaming here. Nephew will praise asleep.
Oh, okay.
Nephew Prey is at the house.
Yeah, Sisso Prey is spending the night.
So we're not calling him Clone of Prey, huh? He's nephew of Prey.
We were never calling it Clone of Prey.
I distinctly remember somebody calling him Clone of Prey at one point.
Aaron, Mama Prey will send Uncle Paulie after you about saying that. Okay.
Okay. All right. Well.
And he's an expert with a rock hammer, I'm told.
We can't have that. I've seen The Sopranos. I get what you're feeling here. I watched a compilation because I haven't seen Sopranos in a long time. I saw a compilation online of some of Paulie Gutierrez's best quotes. That was the Paulie Walnuts character. And he said some funny stuff. He was one of the best parts of the show for me. But a lot of things we could have had with Enterprise, and again, I there's been many a day I've plotted the murder. No, I haven't. I wouldn't say that. Many days I've longed to see the obit. No, I won't say that either. I don't like Les Moonves. Let's just put it that way. He's the guy who personally pulled the plug on Enterprise, and then he approves the Discovery. It's just like, what?
I think the only reason he did that was looking at a lot of the fan productions. Because,
Axanar had them worried. I mean, because
Axanar was just the third. It's like 3 or 4 out there, production quality wise, that would be just as good as Axanar. So it wouldn't just be Axanar that would worry them.
Yeah.
I mean, Star Trek Continues is an awesome series.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Even Phase 2 that's out there, the Phase 2 episodes are good.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that Axanar was the the straw that broke the camel's back here, because that could actually be misconstrued as a new official Star Trek production. The other ones were recreations of the original series. This one was something retro but new looking. And Alec Peters, you can believe what he says in interviews, or you can disregard what he says in interviews. But he says the interview, he says that's what happened. He says that the reason they were coming after him was because his work looked like official Star Trek production. So
What up, Harry?
That wasn't the only one, though. I mean,
right, but I mean, he was making stuff. He was using because one of the things that was kind of brilliant about Axanar is he used a little bit of the J.J. Abrams filming style for the ships with the corkscrew angles and stuff, but they were still retro designs, and and he was also using actual Star Trek actors, Tony Todd, what's his face, J.G. Hertzler, and especially the Saval actor, and playing Saval, Gary Graham, and and that was another big problem. I mean, because it was new and it was retro and it was basically, I mean, around the same time as the Abrams films chose to make their film stories too. I mean, it was 10 years or 20 years earlier, but still, it's relatively similar. But my big thing with Axanar is I think they should have stuck to those 20-minute documentaries. I think they should have stuck with that format, because that was really good, and you didn't need to make a feature film.
Yeah, had they done that, it would have been a string of things about that war, stuff that happened before that war, and that would have been great.
I mean, he left. Go ahead.
I wanted to see what happened during that time frame of the Starfleet history.
Oh yeah,
that's
at
a
the
good
end.
question, Cinnabon. I don't know.
At the end,
we got a sub question for you.
Oh dear! If a sub sinks a merchant, is it a war crime? Well, I don't know if it's a war crime. It'd probably be a crime. I mean, there was a submarine that sank a fishing boat back in 2000, I think it was, or it was the USS Greenville. And let me just look it up here real quick.
That was an accident.
It was an accident, yeah, but they still got into trouble. I mean, they and that was and when that happened. I mean, the ship that they destroyed was called the Ihime Maru. It was a Japanese fishing fishing trawler that had been retrofitted for high school science classes. So there was like high school students on there trying to learn oceanography and stuff like that, science.
Damn.
And what happened was, and they used to do this all the time when I was in, back in Clinton's 90s, they used to arrange for what they called VIP cruises on submarines. It was kind of because they thought the Cold War was over. These things are relics of a different era, that kind of thing. And so they would put senators and members of the House of Representatives. They'd give them tours. And it was a pain in the ass. And I had a captain at the time who volunteered for every single one of them. And you always had to take them out. And for one thing, and they'd pile on like 20, 30 people extra on a submarine. That's a lot less room than you're used to. There's nowhere to stand or anything. And then what they would do is they'd put them in the helmsman, plainsman seats during an emergency blow. Now, during an emergency blow, there is absolutely nothing the helmsman and plainsman can do to keep to mess that up. That ship is coming to the surface because you blow the ballast tanks dry, and the ship just rockets to the top. Problem is, though, you're blind when you do that because you're moving so fast. So you're supposed to do all kinds of sonar sweeps and things like that before you maybe check out the area with a periscope. You go deep, and then you blow the tanks dry, and you come up like a rocket. And everybody on board that isn't used to it goes ooh and ah and shits their pants. And then we take them home. Well, that's what the Greenville was doing. They were giving one of those kind of cruises, and they came up underneath that fishing boat, that high school science ship, and destroyed it and wrecked the whole front of the submarine as well. And captain was relieved. And then the news crews got a hold of it and found out, there were they put civilians in the in the helm, in the steering, the steering wheel, behind the steering wheel of the ship, and it's like, and trying to make it into a more trying to embellish a little bit. They're not telling a lie, but they're not explaining to the people who don't know anything about submarines that there was nothing those you could have put anybody in. You could have those chairs be empty, and it still would have happened.
Yeah.
And so I mean, but that was not a time of war, But if a submarine or any ship attacks a ship that they're not supposed to, they're in trouble, and it could be considered a war crime, I suppose. Problem is, though, that in a very real sense, submarines were designed to commit war crimes. When they were first sort of introduced in war, World War I, they were a despicable vehicle to be on.
Yeah.
Back before World War I, you were supposed to take the enemy ship's crew prisoner, house them, feed them, and then and be able to do that, and then you sink their ship. Well, a submarine doesn't have the room to take on prisoners. They just sink the ship and then let the crew, fend for themselves. And in some parts of the ocean, the crew is shark shit a week later, and that was considered, in fact, there was one British member of Parliament, I guess, who said that it's devious, underhanded, and not very British to have submarines, but they were effective, and that was the comfort level of the world's navies had to adjust when those became a real thing, and you can thank the Germans for that.
Yeah, but it was the British that screamed about that the loudest, because they had the premier surface fleet.
Oh yeah, they were. They had the gallant officers and the pretty ships and the pomp and circumstance. And here you got these grimy Germans under the water, that are covered in sweat and oil and gasoline and stuff. And they're just sinking ships left and right underneath them. And it was considered despicable warfare.
And then was it Jutland or Scapa Flow where the British Navy just destroyed the German fleet?
Could be. I'd have to look that one up. But yeah, Jutland was a big battle. I remember hearing that name. But so, and once the bad guys were willing to go there, the good guys had to go there too, right? And so. That's one of the reasons why I always thought it was kind of weird that, and I understand that there's a treaty called the Treaty of Algeron in Star Trek that prevents Starfleet from pursuing cloaking technology. But come on, that's not how it worked in the real world. Roddenberry famously said, "Our guys don't sneak around." Well, yes, our guys do sneak around, you motherfucker. But that was one of the things.
31, goddamn it.
Yeah, that was one of the things that Roddenberry said that I thought made him sound completely out of touch with humanity. Was this idea that we human beings don't sneak around.
Yeah, especially since he's supposed to be a Navy veteran.
Was he? I can't remember now. I thought he was Air Force, but let me take a look. Gene Roddenberry.
Well, a veteran, period. If he wore any one of this country's uniforms, he should know better.
Yep, he was in the Army Air Forces during World War II. So he was in what they back then I think called the Army Air Corps, which later became the Air Force. I think.
Cinnabon quit shooting torpedoes at whales.
What is wrong with Cinnabon?
I don't know. He has this thing with horses and now
He's
whales.
trying to make the whales go extinct.
I don't think you could torpedo a whale, to be honest. If a torpedo hit a whale, the whale is such a soft impact, I don't think it would set off the warhead. I think it would just bruise it. But yeah. There were certain places up north where we weren't allowed to go during certain times of year because that was whale mating season. And when a submarine goes in, it goes into a place where there's a lot of whales, a lot of the bull whales, they look at the submarine and they think that it's another whale, but there's something wrong with it, and they try to push it and ram it, trying to drive it away. Well, if they tried to do that on a submarine, they'd crack their skulls on the hull. So the submarines just are told to avoid those areas.
All right, so it looks like it worked. All right, good.
What worked?
We
It was playing fine. Was it playing fine for you guys? Bird
we-
and
we put the message in the chat there. It said it was playing fine.
working for me. Okay, got it. All right. Sorry. I
Yeah,
didn't see the
we
chat.
played good.
Yeah. Good. And that was 1, 2, 3, 4 people on. All right.
I missed something.
Yeah, me.
Sorry,
Molly,
something behind the scenes there. Doing a
Okay.
test stream.
Gotcha.
Admiral remembers hitting a whale with an aircraft carrier. I was there that day.
Well, the aircraft carrier will win.
Yeah.
That's a pretty much a guarantee there. You know,
I would hate to see emergency ballast or blow your ballast like it hit like bringing a whale up. What if you did it underneath a whale?
I think the whale would just flop over. I mean, whales will sometimes put themselves in the air. You know,
Yeah.
A big ass whale too. Like I don't know. The submarine would be heavier than a whale, though, right?
oh yeah, definitely. But
Yeah.
blue whales are you know, I don't think there is a species of whale that gets as long as even mine was. But yeah, you know, I mean,
That's
animals
what she said.
animals get daring. While we're on the surface, we used to have porpoises, you know, dolphins, jumping over the submarine from side to side. They would play with it, and you know, so they can get kind of playful, you know.
Ooh.
Oh,
No,
boy.
Cinnabon, I'm reading your message, and I don't know what Knuckle does either. So
It's part of the video game, Cinnabon. Read the instructions.
Ah.
I have no idea.
He's doing some type of submarine game.
well, I keep waiting for World of Warships to introduce their submarine expansion, and they haven't done it yet. So I'm kind of
Yeah,
ticked at them.
We got a cook in the house now.
Oh,
We got a chief cook in the house.
Welcome, Chief.
I don't know.
Oh, cavitate.
And
I've
this
been
all
thinking to ask, how in the hell did they even think they could use the word cavitate?
yeah.
It doesn't even sound like it would do something.
Well, you know, the thing is, it's okay for them to use the word as long as they explain what they mean by it, because all we have to go on is the real world definition of cavitation, which wouldn't apply in science because you don't have a low pressure area in space. It's a no pressure area in space. That's what space is, right?
Yes.
So you're not worried about bubbles forming on the hull. You're not, you know, and so when I heard that, it just kind of irked me a little bit because it sounds to me like the hack writers heard the word in a couple of submarine movies and said, well, we need to use that word. It's a good sounding word, but then we'll just put it anywhere and you know, kind of like quantum sorta, you know, but they don't, it reminds me of when George Lucas used the word parsec in a way that revealed that he didn't know what the word meant
Yeah.
in Star Wars.
Yeah, but here's the thing.
Oh dear.
Annie Trekker will explain it all later.
Well, Annie Trekker's not going to defend STD. I mean, there's one or two tiny little things I like about STD. I like the term black alert. You know, I thought that was kind of neat. And I liked, what was it? Obviously the black badges. Those were kind of neat. And I liked some of what Lorca did and said and his way of looking at certain things until they revealed that he was actually a villain the whole time. Which
Black badges made no sense to me.
I mean,
They did.
look
I just
but they
thought.
don't make
Yeah.
sense.
You're right. They looked cool, and that's the only reason I really liked them. You know? And you know, there were so many different things they seemed to be playing with in the first half of the first season that they abandoned in the second half. Like, you know, there's people that were legitimately thinking this has to be a Section 31 ship because the word number 31 is in their hull number. You know, 1031, and you know, but.
Well, that and they're using a drive that no other ship has.
Yeah, and I actually do kind of like the idea of an experimental ship that has a warp drive, conventional warp drive, and something else on the side that they can use. That's fine with me. I mean, I've toyed with the whole idea of having a ship that had an emergency soliton drive. You know, the soliton wave from that episode.
Oh yeah.
From TNG. Yeah. because that's neat. That's like, but it's a one-way trip. You know, you go where the wave goes. You know, and that's. But
And then how do you shut the wave down?
well, you'd have. Well, they figured out how to do it with torpedoes, but it was obviously you perfected a little more before you start using it on ships.
Well, that's easily remedied. The deflector dish, it works for everything else.
You're right, it does. Yeah, it would work. But you just have to have a way of dissipating the wave once you get close enough to where you want to go. But I mean, as an and that also it would make a grid weapon too. Let's say you generate a soliton wave on an enemy ship you can't defeat. It takes it into warp involuntarily right into a planet or something.
Actually, it would probably shatter that ship.
Well, eventually it will. Because if you remember the episode where the soliton wave was introduced, its energy level kept increasing as it traveled.
Yeah.
And so by the time it got to the planet it was supposed to deliver that test ship to, it was going to destroy the planet. So that's why Picard had to take care of it, and he had to do it quickly because it was going fast. It was starting to get faster than the ship could go. And so, I mean, you just take that and you start refining it a little more, make it a little less dangerous, a little easier to control, and but it's got its own applications and strengths and weaknesses and differences with the warp drive, and that's cool. I think that's neat. You have one little ship it's designed, or any kind of ship that's designed to also have that on board for whatever reason. Neat idea. But the magic mushroom drive. And how they explained that it worked was such hippy dippy pie in the sky bullshit. It didn't have roots in popular science. It had roots in what do I want to call it? Spiritualism. It had roots in New Age.
And they ripped off the concept from Dune.
That too. I mean, they ripped off a whole bunch of concepts from a whole bunch of people, but yeah, it's.
Is nothing wrong with, the idea. It was, but I mean, they just let me shut up. I mean, they're not showing this.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that they never get a chance to even show any more STD.
I have to tell you, though, I finally did see the second season of Orville, and I love the fact that Bortus bought a sex program from a tardigrade, and that sex program literally gave the ship an STD. That was hilarious. Little piece of innuendo there. And that tardigrade looked really good too. It looked a lot like the STD tardigrade, except it talked.
And that was all animatronic.
Yeah,
that wasn't
CG.
No.
Yeah, that's one other thing I really like about that is that they have, and they've got like big name actors on that show, but they're covered in makeup. Like there's a bartender.
Yeah.
In what passes for 10 forward on the Orville, who's literally it's Jason Alexander from Seinfeld, but you can't recognize him with all the makeup on, and he talks differently, but it's him. He's in the credits, and So yeah, I mean Tony Todd's been on that show in Mocklin makeup. You've had
Bruce Willis played a flower.
Yeah.
Now I didn't know that.
Yeah, flower was
Sunflower. That was Bruce Willis.
Oh wow. Okay, interesting. And then you had, Charlize Theron playing a hot chick. That was a real stretch. But, so I mean, he's got lovely sets of cameos, and I just like that show so much better. So much so that I got myself an Eagle Moss Orville, not the big XL though. I got the standard size one.
The episode with the two Trek doctors with Phlox and the Doctor facing off on Home.
Yeah.
Alara goes home.
Oh, yeah, okay. Oh, yes, that's right.
Like,
you got Phlox and Voyager's Doctor.
With your hand.
And I didn't like that because it made the anti-vaxxers seem insane and homicidal. you know, the villains were anti-vaxxers in that show. That was that in that episode. That's the only thing I didn't like about it. But
Well,
I like the new security chief way better than the old one, though. It's like she
Yeah.
has like she's like the. I mean, she's got the same powers. She's just
and she's not dating the star.
yeah. That's another plus. That means she might last a little bit longer. But yeah, she's the opposite really of Alara because she has all the experience in the world. This is like her second rodeo, so she's very relaxed with everything she does. And you know that scene where some woman grabs her by the throat from behind, and they cut to commercial, and you're like, oh yeah, she's dead. You know, they cut back from commercial. You've never met a Selayan, have you? It's just like,
Just a little thing I wanted to show here since we all found out Regis Philbin passed away.
oh no, really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. He showed up in full makeup.
Quark with Regis.
You know, I loved Quark's outfits because there was something very leprechaun-like about those outfits. Yeah. Yeah, I remember that. He came out without makeup first, and then he came back, and of course, hours later, you know, because that's how long it takes for them to apply Quark makeup, he comes out, and it's, you know, on television, it happens within like a commercial break. He comes back out as Quark, and yeah, that was some amazing makeup on that guy.
They should have done it backwards. Let him come out as Quark first because it would have been easier to get the makeup off him real quick and send him back out.
You want to see something kind of funny? You might be able to find it on YouTube. Back when Planet of the Apes was a thing, the original Planet of the Apes with Roddy McDowall and that. Roddy McDowall was on the Carol Burnett show, and he came out in his full, you know, Planet of the Apes makeup, and Burnett was visibly shaken by seeing him, you know, in that because that was, you got to remember, that was some damn good makeup back then.
Yeah.
Especially in the first couple of movies. After that, they kind of got lazy. But in the first movie, you know, first one or two movies, that was some seriously awesome prosthetic jobs.
I think there is a video. There is video on YouTube of him having that makeup applied.
Yeah.
I've seen it.
Mm-hmm.
So you probably just write him down, Planet of the Apes, and it'll show up.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, Carol Burnett was like, she was startled by his transformation, and you know, it's kind of fun. It's like I found a commercial the other day because I'm always looking for sponsors, you know, for my videos, and I found one of a franchise, a burger franchise that doesn't exist anymore, called Burger Chef. And apparently they were still around in the 70s, and they had a Star Wars promotion in 1977 when Star Wars came out, where if you bought a large soft drink for 49 cents, you got a free Star Wars poster. And the advertisement, of course, has the two droids in the Burger Chef, and then Darth Vader shows up at the end. And I remember, you know, when I was a kid looking at commercials like that, thinking, oh, they're real. They're in Burger Chef. If I go to Burger Chef, I could run into Darth Vader, you know. And you know, I'm a little kid, you know, magic stuff. Hey, Chief.
Hey guys. Hey guys. How you doing?
welcome, Chief.
Yeah, I got. Hey,
Welcome,
Barry.
welcome.
Yeah, I got a
I got to get going.
Okay.
All right,
Late for
give
me.
it a rest.
All right, Bird.
Take care,
Have a good
guys.
one,
Good
Bird.
night.
Take care.
You too, bro. Have a good one, man.
And we've lost the bird.
Yeah, Big Bird will have to leave. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with everything what Darren said. And when someone's in the Navy, you kind of actually like, what are they trying to do? You know?
You talking about the Greenville?
No, I'm talking about, Discovery.
Oh, Discovery. Yeah. I mean, they you could tell they were trying, but it's like it was like the least amount of effort possible to even understand something first. I mean, you know, you look at what's her face, the writer for the episode Measure of a Man did in prep for that episode. She actually interviewed JAG officers in the Navy.
Oh yeah, yeah. I remember that.
To try to enhance the whole, is Data a living, being, court case that they had in that episode, and all that stuff about how, in naval tradition, the captain, the CO, in the event there's no legal staff, the CO is the defendant and the first officer is the plaintiff.
Yeah.
That's all taken from JAG, from Navy regulations. She actually looked that stuff up, and so when people were commenting on how, why would you have Picard be the defendant, and it's like, well, because you're supposed to, based on that's all derived from the real world, and then they put effort into their scripts and their stories. They were much more well thought out than what we have on Discovery.
Yeah. But I met when I was out, and you also what's that movie? Undiscovered Country, when Kirk said right foot rudder, right spin rudder. I like that's come out of
Oh yeah.
Navy. I'm like when all of a sudden we start doing Navy song.
Yeah, Andy Drecker is right. Kirk gave actual ship moon maneuver orders, whereas by the time you get to TNG, it's all attack pattern Delta, evasive pattern, Omega Omicron, butt sniff, whatever it is, and so that basically they could say anything they wanted, but you could not.
I always saying all they have to say is right stern to sail, because it's sail to make the ship go move left and right to sail. Or no.
Well, the maneuvering thrusters maneuver the ship, but I mean, it's all verbiage, but that would require that a writer actually look up some things about ships and how they maneuver, and maybe if you're on a tight schedule, TV schedule, you don't have time to do that, but I think you do. Especially with the internet, it's like just 5 minutes on Wikipedia does wonders.
Actually, stuff like that they should have in a book.
It's called. I need a Navy person to come down here and get and be a Navy advisor, and you guarantee you have people, flying people come down there.
Oh yeah,
you know that they know that.
Yeah. Well, it used to be that when you had a writing staff, you were guaranteed that at least a couple of them are going to be veterans.
Yeah.
And some of them might even be veterans of the branch. But now none of them are. They're all they're all college kids who went from high school directly to college and hate the military.
Yeah, I know guys. When Enterprise, they do it for free. They'll be there in time. Hey, no problem. We big Star Trek fans. No problem. They do that for free. They help. Right. They help build the CB help rebuild the damn thing.
Yeah. I also think it has to do with egos too. I think that there's probably some
or just dollar signs.
Yeah, some good old human ego in there as well that prevents them from. Yeah.
It's called. I
gotta go.
Why?
I got a Geloge. I'll be right back.
Okay. That's what it is. We may cost them. No, they don't. You won't be surprised what Star Trek fans will do for free. Much as I hate that guy who what's that name in the movie? That fan movie XNR. So some people do it for free. They go down there, have you do it for free because they love Star Trek. X-Day guy who did Star Trek Continuum. Half the stuff was free. People say, hey, I'm doing a Star Trek movie. I need help. I guarantee people will show up. But it missed so many opportunities. It hurts. It hurts when you see Star Trek like this.
Right. Same here, brother. Hey, Chief Cook.
Fun times.
DJ, you still wearing that bunny suit?
No. I'm wearing a tuxedo tonight.
Oh. Shop dress, man. New shirt. Hey, Mr. Landau, how you doing, man?
I'm all right.
Okay, so since I kept my headphones on while I was geloging, I heard most of that, and yeah, I want to say there's something about this whole "we'll do it for free" thing. There is a real aversion in show business to people who do things for free.
What's that?
Because
I didn't hear this.
it's weird because professionals don't like it when somebody else does something for free that's similar to what they do, because then that means that somebody might expect it for free next time from them. But here's a great example of a problem like that. There's this Eagle Moss has a model called the Enterprise Klingon D4 concept model. You can Google it. I have an edition of this. This was a Klingon battle cruiser that one of the guys on the production staff of Enterprise came up with on a weekend. He made a digital model for an episode called. It was the episode where Trip supposedly got pregnant. Unexpected. That was the name of the episode. First season, right? And the studio would not use this model that he came up with. It looked a lot like a D7, except it had the usual rigging on it. It looked older. It had reinforcements on the neck and things like that. It looked cool. I mean, I liked it, but Paramount wouldn't use it. Instead, they told him to just use a surplus Klingon ship from their digital archive, and so they grabbed one of the Katinga models they used for Deep Space Nine, and they put that in the episode too. Well, what do you think happened? The fans went ape crap. I mean, they're like, "How old is the Katinga?" It's like and they even identify it as a Klingon battle cruiser in the episode, and it's like, okay, so now this ship, it was already kind of an old ship. I mean, it had been around in Kirk's era, and they still use it in the Battle of Deep Space Nine and the Dominion War. Now we're expected to believe that it was in use 100 years before Kirk in Archer's time, and it was because they wouldn't use that free ship that guy made because, for whatever reason, internal office politics, whatever, that kind of thing. It's like, and this guy made that ship, that D4 concept, out of love for the show and love to preserve continuity. He didn't want him to have to mess up continuity by using a ship that belonged in another generation of Star Trek, and they wouldn't use it. And when the backlash came on all the websites and message boards, Rick Berman told the production staff he doesn't ever want to see that Klingon ship again in any Enterprise production. And here they had one that they could have used, and they didn't use it.
Yeah, and also, Alex Peter, the guy with the Actinar, he said during the trial, he said you would do it for free. You just
right.
You didn't have to sue me.
Mm-hmm.
It was just fun. You can have it. You don't have to sue out of there and this BS. And if I remember correctly, in the motion picture, that scene where Kirk is dressing everybody, having people were fans, and they did it for free.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean the fans were a resource they wanted nothing to do with over at CBS. Yeah. It was amazing. They in fact they looked at them as the target. We need to piss these people off so that we can get all the people that don't like Star Trek to like Star Trek, because there's more people who don't like Star Trek in the world than there is the people who like it. And that was their illogic in the whole matter. To this day, I mean, the J.J. Abrams films, they're okay, but they're designed for people who don't like Star Trek.
Yeah.
There are one or two things that I liked about the J.J. films, but and it's some things that I wouldn't mind them adopting into Star Trek later on, but not during Kirk's era.
Like what?
Well, I actually like the idea that the engine room looked like an engine room, and then the bridge and all the control surface areas looked like normal. Like when you look at the engineering space on the Enterprise D, it's the same kind of set materials and everything that you find on the bridge. The only thing that's different there is you got the great big warp core prop. Uh-huh. But everything is a control surface. There's no actual machinery. It's all assumed to be like in the walls or something, or behind the walls where you can't see it. On the first Star Trek JJ film, we got to see, because they filmed it at a Budweiser brewery, a brand new one. It looked like a place, an industrial facility. It looked like an engine room of a ship. It was a little bit. It was a little. I mean, it was more exaggerated. I mean, obviously they had some CG elements in there too. But I mean, they had the great big plumbing pipes and things like that in there. and I just thought that was a neat idea. And then you go to the saucer part of the ship, and it's what you would expect. It's an Apple store.
But that looked too damn big. Compared to Scotty's engineering room,
Right.
Trip's engineering, it looked too damn big.
The size was big, but then that ship, the JJ Enterprise ship is way bigger than the Galaxy class. So I mean, which it shouldn't be that big. I realize that, but
Yeah.
but that actually, I mean, that looked like in the engine room of a ship that's of monstrous size. When I watched TNG, I never got the impression that the Enterprise D was that big based off of the internal sets. The sets should have been much bigger.
I enjoyed how they had. I'm sorry. I just want to say I enjoyed how they had like the what's the word I'm looking for? Those compressor type, like for the they weren't the injectors, but they caught on fire, and you had to use.
Where was that now? What?
On the right sides, the right side of the engine, going around the outer edge of engineering.
Okay.
When they would push the warp engines too hard, they might have been the Manatake infolds, that maybe, and they had the little trap doors at the bottom of the cylinder that would blow open with fire.
In the original series?
Oh no, I'm talking about Enterprise. I'm sorry, I thought we were talking about Enterprise.
Enterprise, no.
The engine room in Enterprise.
Yeah, well, yeah, fire would come out of some places. That was interesting.
Yeah.
Or
they had like fire blowback.
Or that
Not
one
just
lightning
fire.
effect they use all the time.
Not just fire, but the what I'm talking about, if you look at it, it was like they expect fire to come out of there. Like the units there was like 4 of them going across the wall. Like they were made to, like, this is their emergency blow, because it was like actually like a fireplace there, and the fire.
Okay, I'll have to check that out. I missed that, but
it was cute. The episode when they had to go past 5.1 with the shit. What was it called? Remember the Vulcan ambassador that shook hands and liked to speak English, and they thought they were her a criminal, and they had to bring her back.
Yeah, they had to hit 5.1.
They had at 5.1. That's when it happened.
Okay. Because and then later in season 4 they went to 5.2 because of the Klingons put a subroutine in their computer that was causing things to go haywire. But yeah, the Abrams thing with the engine room I actually liked. I liked the fact that when a voice came over a speaker, it sounded like a voice coming over a speaker instead of just a sound editing. Like they actually sound like a squawk box. I thought that was kind of interesting, but. A lot of the other choices I didn't care for. I mean, I didn't like the size of the ship. I didn't like the fact that the saucer was basically the same as the movie era, and then they just played around with the nacelles. And then, it was.
You know what got me? Now that you're saying that, on TNG, did anybody else get pissed off at this? The comm badges. You had to believe that when you said Picard to Wesley.
Yeah.
There's no way the computer knew it was supposed to go to Wesley in real time until he actually said the word Wesley. But they made it look like those communication badges like psychically knew when you hit it who to open up a comm badge to.
I didn't like the idea of the stupid comm badges anyway.
And then that brings up, it would have to, the communication protocol would probably have to be the way we had to do it in the Army, make sure you talk to the right person back and forth.
Well, my thing was, I mean, okay, does anybody remember a cell company called Nextel?
Yep.
Okay, well, they had this push to talk feature that was amazing. You type in a person's number, you hit a button, and blip, you're instantly talking to somebody in Peru. That's how awesome it was.
Yeah.
And you'd use this thing called the IDEN network, the Integrated Digitally Enhanced Network, and it was amazing when it came to push-to-talk functionality. Now, that being the case, on TNG, when they say Riker to Pulaski or something, I assumed that the computer was just that fast and figured out who the message needed to go to, and it seemed like it was real time, like she's in the same room with him. that's how I interpreted it. But I also have had thoughts like yours, where it's like, how did that's almost too fast for us to be able to really believe
Yes.
here in the 80s or back when I was watching it. But that's how I interpret
like
it now.
time travel fast, because you would have to transmit before I said Picard to, like, before I said my name. But if you think about it, it would be weird, because maybe if I did have a system like that, you would be like, okay, LDG to Wagner, and then the computer, just that first communication you would not hear live.
Well,
As soon as they say Wagner, you hear a
yeah.
delay,
Wait a minute.
and then it
Wait a minute,
connects.
though. Maybe it could be like Alexa, always listening.
Well, here's the thing. Here's my take on it. What it should be is there should be a pause that it takes exactly the same amount of time as it says, Wagner to LDG. So it would be like Wagner to LDG, and then that's when
Yes.
you hear the response. That's because they yeah, you're right, absolutely, because it's like they're in the same room with you, and they're not. They're out of
not.
earshot. So
Oh shit, he's back. He's back. Shh, shh. Okay.
No, he grabbed his Malta. All right.
Well, I was going to help us pick out what we were going to take, and then he came back. So,
But yeah, that was one of those things where you don't notice it until you've watched enough Star Trek.
Yeah.
Yeah, personally, I liked the wall communicators where they had to go over, where they
Yes.
would buzz a compartment.
Anybody listening, or anybody, or those kind of things.
Well, the computer would know where everybody is. That was one thing. So if the computer to locate, Archer, and then they would buzz his ready room, and he'd have to get up to the wall, and then sometimes, like in season 4, he actually carried a communicator with him, because of course by that time everybody had a cell phone in real life. So they just carried the communicators with them like cell phones. But no, I like the wall communicator a lot better, just because I don't know. I think that it's better to have one mounted into the ship than, or both. Have both
Well, you should
there.
have
So,
both. You should have both.
Yeah.
It's not like there was a dialing pad. They would still just hit one button and speak.
But for how long did they use the wall communicator? I remember.
Every panel is a wall communicating. Well, technically, I would assume
Every room, every compartment has one. Usually they're right by the door.
Yeah, but TNG, wasn't the communicator just all the digital walls going across? Like any of them? Even
TNG, you had voice interface with the computer at all times. You could just call out to the computer. Yeah, you could just call out to the computer and do it that way. And so I mean, we've been so used to that between TNG, Deep Space Nine even had it, I think, but I think that was installed later.
Yeah, no, they had it.
They had it in Ops. I don't know. I don't think you could be on the promenade and talk to the computer, but I think you could. In Ops, you had voice interface.
Oh, true. I didn't think about that bit.
And then on Voyager, they had it obviously, but then you get to Enterprise, and all of a sudden people have to go to a wall and get buzzed in, and I like that.
Yeah, no, I like that too. Totally.
Well, Enterprise was a throwback to TOS, where they had to go up to a wall, push a button, and sit there and try to communicate with somebody. So
yeah,
but now wait, TOS had. Wait, didn't TOS have voice communication across the entire ship?
No,
yeah, they did.
No, they did. They had to communicate.
I know.
They had the walls too. They had to go up to the wall, push
they
it.
had the walls.
They had to hit something all the time. Okay.
The captain had on his chair a button he could touch, where then he'd be broadcasting like on the 1MC to the entire crew, and I always liked those scenes, because they would add the echo to William Shatner's voice as he was talking to the whole crew. But and they did that one time on Enterprise, and it was in a Mirror Darkly Part 1, where Mirror Archer addressed the crew after he assumed command. From Captain Forrest, or whatever his name was. But oh dear, Chief Cook sounds like a robot.
Yeah, Chief, you're a robot again. Can't even hear you. It's just static.
Kick in an extra $5 and get Verizon.
Are you sure about that?
But now it started coming,
Yeah.
and then it went out again.
There you go.
AT&T is fortunate.
Chief,
No, the thing.
switch
Go ahead,
back
sorry.
to his phone.
I mean, Yeah, it's my phone. Unfortunate.
Okay.
I was about to hear.
The
Switch
thing-
on my computer. I can switch on that.
The thing that and I said this before, the thing that got me about Voyager, Enterprise, was they never told you where all the food came from, and they never did stores load. They never did anything, and they were supposed to be out there just tooling around like any other Star Trek ship was, and it didn't become realistic to me until the 4th season when Earth was their home port, and they would go out and do missions and come back, because then that made sense to me. That's how naval ships are deployed typically. And it's how they should have been deployed from the very beginning. But the writers were like, we need to get the ship out there and, have it just go from alien planet to alien planet and never replenish their stores or anything,
Yeah, that was actually a decision too. That was
Alien planet
part of it. I
And,
actually thought about that. They were going to go one way, more DS9-ish, or go back to the whole resetting of the storyline and everything's hunky-dory and fine. And
Yeah.
we have negative 20 torpedoes. Yeah.
No, the episodes that I really liked also in the first season were the ones when they were forced to upgrade their weapons. I think it was
Hold on.
Sure.
Harry, gotta shut off YouTube. We're getting the back feed.
Oh, you're talking about the Enterprise episode? Well, that wasn't an upgrade. That was an installation. That wasn't even an upgrade.
Well, they had pulsed lasers in the pilot, and they only fired them once, and it was weird. They were like Star Wars type
meteorites.
weapons. Yeah, they were Star Wars like looking weapons, and then they got the solid beam phase cannons, and those became their primary weapons. Those were more effective in most cases than the torpedoes were, because the spatial torpedoes were junk.
well,
Yeah.
what's weird thing about
Actually, the movie, not the movie, but the Enterprise era never fitted in TOS, but it fitted better in the Next Generation.
I think it fits fine in TOS. It's just that there's a lot of things that you have to take into account. I mean, when you look at the Andorian ships, for example, in Enterprise, the bridge they look a lot like the bridge of the Enterprise. There's certain things, the way the consoles are shaped and how they're lit. You can see that maybe the bridge of the Enterprise that Kirk had, but maybe the Andorians had a hand in designing that bridge, because it was a fusion of those things. They were very careful about that. The Vulcans also had some interesting things. They had the chicken wire, for example, in their quarters, and there's chicken wire in the on the Enterprise in TOS. So I mean, there were some subtle things they added in there that I thought hinted that the Enterprise was an integrated ship that was made from remnants of the Andorian Navy and the Vulcan High Command, and also Starfleet. So, yeah, I thought that was neat.
Yeah, but also by weird thing about Enterprise is he jump back and forth on his uniform things. It still don't make no sense. Everybody clearly knows it look like Next Generation Enterprise suits. I mean not Enterprise, the movie suits, and with the collar and the badges on the side, and jump up. When people start asking how come they look like this, and Kirk didn't have no jumpsuit and TOS.
Yeah.
That's
well, the costumes, the uniforms on Enterprise, I'm convinced were inspired by the coveralls that we wore in the Navy.
Yeah,
they're roughly the same color. They're also made out of cotton, They're made out of cotton, not lycra, like the rest of the the onesies and things that they wore on TNG. But one of the things that I liked when I saw the pilot was they showed like these admirals looking at the Klingon in the operating room, right? And they're wearing uniforms that incorporate like a shirt and tie.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh wow, they're wearing shirt. This is way closer to our time, because their dress uniforms or office uniforms have an actual tie, like we wear today.
Some parts look like the Air Force, Air Force, thing. I said, is this Air Force? No, they're very close to it. But it just,
uniforms change drastically all the time. You look at an American sailor suit from World War One. It does not look like what we wore. I mean, that's different kind of hat and everything.
Yeah, I understand that. You're absolutely right. It should have did that history and make it like like in the cage. I wouldn't have no problem. It's just he went for a jumpsuit, then Kirk with shirt and pants. And so you got to explain to somebody who is new to Star Trek. Okay, how they had suit and went from this? It get confusing. And that's why how to be canon, not canon. But the badges.
Yeah, but
the badges on the right side are four stripe badges for captain and everything, and it's the same thing. They just got lazy and just we're gonna make it early Kirk and Kirk and they had a red room, stuff like that. Everybody got jumped, so it just low rated series.
Consideration, Chief, that there's such a big time difference between where Enterprise was and TOS that there could have been many changes along the way.
Yeah.
No. Come on, man. Really?
That's 100 years between
Archer. 100 years.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, naval uniform from 1920 looks very different than what we have today. But to me, that's not a huge deal. I mean, the uniforms are very important to a show like Star Trek because they set the tone. One of the things that I say that the uniforms on the original series were designed to help sell color TVs.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, my dad grew up, with a black and white TV. He used to watch Star Trek when he was a teenager on black and white TV. Then years later, he got cable and he got a color TV, and he turned on Star Trek came on. And he's like, "What the hell?" Because he didn't, it's all bright reds and yellows and blues and stuff, and he thought everything was gunmetal gray.
Yeah, but you're right. You're absolutely right. But still, you can tell they just low rated the uniforms and look like that. And blue, jumpsuit and everything. Try to make like like the Navy, some guys in submarines and jumpsuit and everything. But still, 20 years later, okay, they went from a jumpsuit to a shirt and pants and yellow shirt, red shirt, and like that.
It's not 20 years though; it's 100.
100 years, but still, you can tell. They didn't take their time. Okay, let's make it like between the cage. These 20 years from the cage, they could have tried to make a solid, yellow. Solid red, solid blue. Keep the black pants on and be straight, and no pins on the collar. Because you remember Kirk had no pins. He had stripes. Everybody knows stripes.
I wish within 100 years that could change back and forth a couple of times.
Yeah.
But
especially once you start integrating other races, because you got to remember that on Enterprise, what you saw was the Earth Starfleet, and it was just populated mostly by humans, except for one or two exceptions. And then after the Federation was formed, then Starfleet was basically a combined service with the Andorian fleet and what was left of the Vulcan science fleet, and so there was all these other uniform inspirations that came into place along with the tech, and so it makes sense that by the time you get to Kirk's era, the uniforms are not going to look like they did back in the day. But it didn't bother me as much as other people do. I mean, there are things that bother me though.
Yeah,
it's just like infantryman in George Washington's army compared to one in Grant's army, compared to one in Patton's army, compared to an infantryman today. Different, same job, different uniforms.
Oh yeah, you look at the helmet that American soldiers wore in World War I versus one they wore in 1970s, and then you look at the one they wore in the 90s when they started mounting cameras on the helmets. There's that's all plausible. That's all happened.
It changes.
But we all still. They didn't just change rapidly.
Those uniforms are going to change again.
Oh yeah, they changed the uniforms for no freaking reason. They gave the Navy aquatic camouflage, which is the dumbest thing you can give a sailor.
Yeah.
If I fall overboard, I don't want.
one damn thing.
If I fall overboard, I don't want my ass to blend in. I want you to throw me a damn donut.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, you know, aim for the. I want to wear something that's bright orange like a hunter.
I never saw the sense in giving you
Yeah.
camouflage like that.
No, it's because the contractor who made the ones for the Army and the Marine Corps also got the deal to make them for the Navy, and it was a bulk deal.
I mean,
Also, you have to
camouflaging-
realize modern camouflage came from actually Russians. Are you aware of that?
And plus, remember one thing we always say.
No, Harry, I
damn
wasn't.
rings.
I wasn't aware of that.
Lots of good things come from Russia. A lot of people don't know that, like kumis.
Oh yeah,
Vodka.
like we had the German hat, the German helmet.
Yep.
Along with the German helmet.
Yeah.
Well, it's because
Also-
in my era, you had the steel pot.
Yep.
Then you had the little annoying plastic that made you, which was an insert, but when you were walking around and not in danger of lead flying or shrapnel, you had that little stupid plastic insert that you were your main thing. Yes?
Yeah.
And Darren, I gather you would never again volunteer yourself? Were you, it gets funnier as time goes on. You were a submariner or you were something else?
I was in the submarine service, so I was a submariner. Yes.
And well, even that changed as time went on.
Oh yeah.
Because one of my friends is the guy who got in a little steel room with a button, and his only job was to push the button to destroy the submarine.
Oh yeah.
Yes, that was his entire job. And I said, "Is this because you're the most whacked?" And he goes, "Yes."
They didn't make him clean anything. I mean, that's
Nope.
usually a collateral duty. Okay. Oh, wow.
Nope.
So they just fed him, and then when when his shift was over, he went to sleep, and then somebody relieved him to go look at that button.
Yep. And that
I've never heard of that
where
job.
he spent, but he was in a boomer, so he wasn't in an attack sub. He was, like I said, in a missile boat.
Oh, okay.
He was in
Yeah.
a ballistic. You're talking about the guy who shoots off the nukes.
No, I'm talking about the force swab. That if the submarine is damaged, and his job is to make sure that he pushes the button to destroy the submarine. So, after they
you
die-
mean
Yeah.
self-destruct?
Yeah, he's the person. That's his job.
Yeah,
Wow.
I know that some submarines for certain jobs are fitted with self-destruct charges, but I didn't know that was a class-wide feature on boomers. But then again, I didn't serve on a boomer, so that might be something that.
Well, it might also have been his class specifically.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and I remember
Don't
other
quote me on it,
military.
because he served from 1975 to 1980, and he was glad to get out of the Navy because he said most of those people are crazy. And that's his job, to sit there and push the button to destroy the sub.
I could do that job. I could sit there and push a button.
Yeah, because I mean, it's just he's got to have some other duties besides that. I mean, that's
Well,
That just- unless he was a spook. Was he a
no,
spook?
I don't think he was a spook, because I remember talking to his alternate. And
Okay.
yeah, that's pretty much our job. And he says, unlike everybody else on board the ship, we didn't have 2 hours on, 2 hours off. And if I remember correctly, it's blue and red is your crew.
Well, the boomers have a blue crew and a gold crew, and but that's a crew. The blue crew goes out for 6 months and then comes back, and then there's a 2 week checkup on the ship, and then the gold crew takes it out for another 6 months.
Yes, that because I thought you would recognize the blue and red. Because
no.
that's mostly submariners and I think even ships.
Now, the ones again, boomers are a little bit different, but I did serve with a lot of guys on boomers. They didn't talk about blue and red. There are blue and gold crews, but I never heard of a shift where you're 2 hours on, 2 hours off, because you can't get a decent amount of sleep in 2 hours.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's
No.
You had a shift that was 2 hours on, 2 hours off, and I don't mean you got to go to bed. You had other duties that were not your specific station. And
Okay.
there would also be a part where you're briefed, you're recertified, and things of this nature. I don't know what the equivalent was in the American Army, because most of the time I was out walking everywhere.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't recognize a lot of what you're saying, but that's okay.
I know. Again,
Well, we got. We always have 12 hours.
I was in the Air Force rejected me yesterday.
Oh,
So
okay.
we have different terminologies, and these people were in the Navy, and it's kind of like being a spook, as you said. They don't really want to talk to non-particular members, And I don't know how much of this was a C story. I mean, an SEE story, not an SEA story.
Right.
See, this is how it was.
Well, the fact that different navies on different countries have different operating ways anyway, so.
Well, I served in the American Army, I served in the Romanian Army, and I served in the Russian Army. Not all at once.
That's good, because we would have had to turn you over to Bird of Prey.
I don't think so. I think Bird of Prey would go the other way. To quote Zebub Rocks, anything bigger than my ego, I want found immediately and shot.
Well, I remember we always were 12 hours on, 12 hours off, and that's for blue and red gold team. We always been captain 1 year, and the XO take over the next year.
Yeah.
Then we switch over.
Yeah.
That's how we do it in the Navy.
I remember there was we were
Especially
one time.
we have two captains.
Sorry. Yeah. One time we were short radio men, so we only had 2 radio men that could come with us, and they had to do port and starboard, where it was 6 hours on, 6 hours off, 6 hours on, 6 hours off, and they weren't loving life at all. But we called that port and starboard. We didn't call that blue and red. We just called it port and starboard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you guys are lucky, but we didn't. Because one thing about when you say you go get off, you get off on time, and so the next person get on, and you can't even sleep. Especially hours, you work so deep in the Navy in the ship, you can't even tell you working day or night.
Yeah. Another thing,
so sometimes we can tell when.
Yeah. On submarines, also, when you go to sleep, you don't get a lot of privacy, and you don't get a lot of peace and quiet. You have to learn how to go to sleep while people are working a few feet away from you.
Oh hell!
And stuff like that, and there's probably places in the surface fleet that are similar. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's better than sleeping in your room.
Oh yeah,
back to back and
we bought carrier. No, we're some areas of the ship. If you're a rookie or a newbie, we'll call CB, they put you closest where the catapult.
Mm-hmm.
You right under the catapult. You hear jet engine go off every day.
Yeah.
You can't get no sleep.
Yeah. Yeah.
So every time you sleep, you hear a plane go off or plane land.
Yeah, the people who on a submarine who are not qualified, that haven't earned the Navy fish, the silver dolphins yet, they have to sleep in the torpedo room where there's always people doing stuff and moving weapons around. And sometimes it's time for you to go to sleep. You only got 6 hours for your next shift, and you can't go to sleep because they're moving the weapons around from tube to tube, and you can't get into your rack because the torpedo room's off limits. So then you're screwed. You gotta stay awake and be clear-eyed for watch. But even if you do get to sleep, get to go to the torpedo room and sleep, the torpedo room isn't just where people nubs sleep. That's also where a lot of people come down there to have play games and play cards and things.
You gotta be careful. You gotta be careful.
Well, the only submarines I'm aware of that have females in the American Navy are SSGNs, which are old SSBN boomers that have had their missile compartments gutted for extra berthing space and other things. And so the females have their own communal areas and berthing space on the sub, which, again, that's the only kind they can serve on, as far as I'm aware. I can't imagine females being on the one I was on because they wouldn't get any privacy. They'd see Wang and we'd see TNA if they were on mine. So.
Well, I'm getting a little tired. I think I'm going to call it a night, folks.
All right. Thanks for having me, DJ.
For almost 3 hours.
Okay.
If you got anything you want to shout out, do it now.
Noptabuna, which means good night.
Andy Trekker put out a video of mine yesterday about cavitation. I want to check it out. He used the worst choice for a thumbnail, but at least he put it out there.
That's funny.
All right.
And for Red October.
His own content. He should not be depending on you guys to keep his channel afloat. That's all I'm going to say.
I know, Mr. Lundell. I agree. You got something coming up?
The night seems early. That's 11 o'clock. Okay. Time is going.
Yeah.
Into a black hole.
Going on, Mr. Lundell, coming up anytime soon?
I'm putting together some movies for the rest for next week now. I got a Western tomorrow. And
Western?
Yeah. Since I'm working,
Nice.
so it's only through the week, it's only an 11 o'clock showing since I'm back working. And what I'm trying to do is Fridays have a chat deal around 8:30 or so on Fridays, and do a triple deal on Saturdays.
Cool.
I'm still having fun. The damn channel is actually growing, so
I'm glad yours is. I'm going backwards. But that's okay.
Not going backwards.
Yeah, it is.
just start making content. I think
567.
everybody keeps saying, put content out. Do like a 10-minute bitch and moan video every day, since we've got the 15 minutes of positivity, do 15 minutes of I don't give a shit, something like that.
Yeah, but I don't want to end up like some of them other channels doing bitch fest all the time. But at some point tomorrow night, we will do game night. We will have Jackbox tomorrow. I just have to figure out when I'm fitting it in.
Gotcha.
Get that.
Hey, which one's the funnest game that includes an audience of any size?
Quiplash.
Which one would you say is the funnest one?
Quiplash.
Really, Quiplash?
Yep, and now I'm down to 566.
Well, that's just because you said it. You kind of stepped into that one.
Yeah, 66 now. Thomas Potts subbed me because there was no games.
It's hard. It's hard to satisfy Thomas. Okay, He's
I know
gonna
it.
sub and unsub, come hell or high water.
But we do have episode 4 of Let's Talk coming up this Monday night at 6 p.m. Central Time. And this week's topic will be the original Battlestar Galactica.
Ooh, damn.
Not the remake. We're going old school.
Well, they're both good. Remake and the original.
And we may even talk about that atrocity Galactica 80.
Oh, no.
Well, there was 2 or 3 highlights to the whole thing, so we got to fit them in somewhere. But that'll be coming up this Monday at 6 p.m. Central here on DJ Odyssey. Anybody else have anything before I hit this exit button and say blow up the show?
Yes, please, guys. Thank you so much for whoever's helped, because definitely some people has changed their votes. But please vote for Burbs. Bird will pray.
Right now, I voted for Burps, but my vote could be swayed either way, depending upon how big of a donation I get into PayPal. Just saying that.
The donation is the word you're going with.
Donation.
that's the word you're going with.
That's the word I'm going with this week.
You could think
Donation.
of another word. Starts with an E.
No, it's donation.
Ends with shun. It also ends with shun.
Donation.
Oh,
Yeah, it's donation.
Oh,
Gets
boy.
my vote. And gets
Oh,
Momo's
man.
vote too. Momo has a vote. Remember that.
Guys, please.
And now Jeff Frank
The fool is
subbing to
begging
me.
And
Listen,
I pissed Jeff off somehow. I don't know how I pissed Jeff off, but he jumped ship, and he's been hashtagging freaking Short Circuit 2.
Well, they want Short Circuit 2 since
Yeah,
Short
yeah.
Circuit 1 was this week. They want to
Good old
follow it
Jeff.
up.
But it wasn't as good as the first, and they can wait another week. And Burbs
Well, it
is
don't-
on its
It
hiatus.
don't matter how good it was, because look, we made Birdwatch Crystal Skull.
Yeah, and he doesn't want to watch Burbs. I think does he want to watch it? I don't even know. Burbs is going to leave. It's going to drop. Short Circuit 2 will be on there next week.
If Short Circuit wins this week, Burps will still be on there next week, because right now it's up there at the highest level. So
Short Circuit.
For the first time, like it took 4 votes, 4 whole voting periods to do that.
Yeah, I mean, but LD
And I think
do
the only
movie
reason
on
it's even
your
that
channel.
high is because I'm actually pushing it myself. My channel's pushing it. My channel's trying to get that. It's not going to piss anybody off.
yeah, but you
It's
don't
just
have
gonna make me
you
happy.
don't have the poll like I do, because I go to the radio station and I just start putting a link out there and telling random people to go vote. That's how we had 200 votes for Crystal Skull on that Crystal Skull polling.
you know,
'cause
I mean, that's
Yeah.
fine. If
I'm just saying, donation gets my vote.
just get a setup like Bird and do the movie, on your channel.
Yeah.
if you want
Yeah,
to.
no, that's what I'm saying. Oh, that's the cool thing about it. That's why I'm trying to hope to see people understand that how I could do this myself, no problem. Could
You get,
don't wanna. I could
get the-
freaking make a million freaking Gmail accounts that I already have, and I could force to vote. I could do
Well,
that.
look,
This
I mean,
ain't
look,
I'm honestly trying to persuade people and test my. Hey, listen, it's LDG here. I'm here to help. Yeah, I'm the guy you come with computer service. Yeah, I'm the guy you can make fun of, and I keep you licking. This
Now-
person's asking for one thing in life. Vote for the Burbs, please.
No, but see,
That's
look at what I'm doing. I mean, the movies I want to show, I'm showing them on my channel. I've got a little fan base, people that like these movies. They've seen them before. If they haven't, a lot of the people actually watch the movies and they enjoy the movies. They tell me they enjoy the movies. Okay, so
Yeah, I'm one of them.
There we go.
instead of just bothering Bird to show this and manipulating the votes and things to get one thing shown as opposed to another, just Do like I do.
After all that from LDG, I just switched my vote from the Burbs back to S Short Circuit too.
Yeah, and I saw that. I saw that, you asshole. Thank you.
See how
Appreciate
y'all,
that.
y'all just screwed
Asshole.
each other over.
Thank you.
It could change many times before now and then.
Thank you. Hey, you want to
Like
learn how
right
to do
now.
this?
Right now, I just went to the gun. I just voted for the Naked Gun now. See, I can do this all night.
You want to learn how to do this?
Super Troopers.
Huh?
I can go for Super Troopers right now. We'll see. Donations.
Like I'm
folks,
lifting weights.
Donations.
1, 2, 3, 4,
PayPal is
5, 6,
below.
7, 8,
Just write
9,
down on
10.
the little note what vote you want me to do.
Ooh.
All right, we're out of here, guys. Have fun.
All right, man.